Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐸 on Wattpad. Now let's start. Izuku Midoriya is a plain boy with green unruly hair, dough-like green eyes and freckles that form a nebula over his nose and his cheeks. Born in Mizudafu, Japan to Izuku Midoriya and Hasashi Midoriya. In Izuku's world, 80% of the population on Earth has a quirk. With these powers, people become heroes that help those who cannot help themselves. These quirks are an evolution of the human body, granting extraordinary power to those who have one. 20% of the population, however, don't have these powers, and are often discriminated against due to them lacking a quirk. Izuku was thought to be unlucky, thought to be quirkless, a Deku, useless and unable to be what he dreamed of being. A hero. He dreamed of being a hero, being number 1, the next symbol of peace. But his apparent quirklessness caused him to be cast aside like trash, thrown to the wolves and to fend for himself. His own parents abandoned him shortly after the nightmare hospital appointment, left him alone in the apartment once shared by the small family. They left him a single note, short and sweet, telling him that he was a disappointment to them and should be isolated like a disease. He wanted so hard to be like his idol, All Might, symbol of peace and number 1 hero. So he smiled and carried on his life, aiming to be a hero, even though everyone put him down. At his tender age of 4, Izuku realized that men aren't created equally, far from it. School was no better, abused and bullied by everyone, even his once best friend Bakugo Katsuki, or Kaken as Izuku called him, bullied him, as in Bakugo's mind, he was superior to Izuku. This in turn meant that Izuku was below him and gave him the right to use his quirk on the useless Deku of the school. Present day, Izuku is selectively mute, his once vibrant emerald eyes now clouded and dull, and his freckles stand out against his pale skin. Scars litter his body, gotten from beatings at school or his self-inflicted ones that scatter his arms and thighs. His worst visible scar covers the right side of his face. Given to him by Bakugo, it marks the end of his friendship with him and the beginning of bullying and abuse that followed. Stray tears run down Izuku's face, sobs rack over his body, but no one hears in his desolate apartment. The apartment itself is a mess, just like Izuku at this moment, as he feels the crushing force of loneliness and depression squeeze at him, mushing his insides together and clogging his brain. Now at the age of 8, he has been living alone of 4 years. Lasting so long was a surprise to Izuku, but his loneliness never left, not once over the years. He can vividly remember the exact moment his life went to hell. Year-old Izuku sat in the office chair opposite the quirk specialist, with an X-ray of his feet to the doctor's right. His feet couldn't hold still, he was so excited to get a quirk so he could become a hero like All Might. Both his parents sat back, close to the door, both looking nervous but like Izuku, excited. The doctor let out a small sigh, like he was fed up, before his green goggles looked up glinting in the light hanging above him, and spoke 2 words that will shatter Izuku's life. He's quirkless. Both his parents looked shocked, before his mother spoke up. But both of us have quirks. I have attraction of small objects, my husband has fire breath, so why doesn't Izuku? The doctor simply shrugged and said, 4th generation quirks. A rare mutation, but means he is quirkless, little chance of him developing one at all. With those words, his mother and father's faces fell, and a sinister silence spread in the room. No more words were spoken as the parents dragged young Izuku out of the hospital back the apartment and left him there all alone. Not without a departing gift, as he heard his father take a breath, before releasing large flames that flew towards him, liking his back and leaving him in excruciating pain. The way the doctor said it was like a person being diagnosed with a serious disease, something bad. No longer able to sit alone, he bolted out of his apartment complex, phantom pain flaring in his back. Darkness surrounded him, but the stars glistening brightly above him made him power forward, guiding him to a dump of a beach. Dagoba Beach. Illegal dumping grounds, but the perfect gym. New-found determination filled him. He will be a hero, the greatest one around. Or not. Fear flooded into him as a cold metallic object is placed on his back, right where his heart is, and a cold, evil voice sounded from behind him. "You think you can just come here to my territory like no one's business? Hell no, so I think I'll punish you." He blabbered on about the beach, then he finished his monologue. He pulled his fist back, quirk activated, turning into some sort of metal, and went to punch Izuku, and it struck in the center of his chest. The man had pulled back his fist once more. He knew that it would kill him, and a high-pitched ringing bounced in his ears, unable to stop the impending doom that approaches. And for the first time in Izuku's life, he felt empowered, strong. Izuku noticed that stars appeared in his mind, glowing brightly, and the brightest a green one, outshining the rest. He could feel a heavy weight that had settled in his chest. His soul burst, releasing all the anger, sadness, and pain Izuku had felt over the years, and with the internal explosion inside his soul, a bright shockwave of heat and power burst, disintegrating the would-be murderer where he stood, and caused himself to pass out. When Izuku awoke, he found himself led on the beach. Around him a large area cleared like a bomb had gone off, and he was at the center. He couldn't remember at all what had transpired last night, so shrugged it off, thinking he passed out due to someone's quirk. He did feel weird though, very warm and energy flowing throughout his veins, and feeling like he could run a marathon and not break a sweat. Once he arrived at the apartment, he still had no idea what on earth was wrong with him, this pent-up energy he was feeling, wanting to burst. He entered his mind, finding the pulsing energy and pulled it to his hands, then pushed out the energy, sending a jet of white-hot flames through the air and onto his couch, scorching it. Panicking, he reached for the flames, manipulating the flames of the couch and into shapes, different shades of color, with his favorite being forest green flames. Like a light SW, he realized that he had a quirk, and amazing quirk. His spirit drowned with hope, a fire rekindled in his soul. He noticed his notebook on the table and ran to get it, hands outstretched, a pulling sensation in his palms, then it flew at him. He had 2 quirks. Izuku couldn't believe it. He can be a hero like All Might. No more time wasted. He went to his room, covered with lovingly wore hero posters and other merch with the little money he had, and pulled up his laptop salvaged from random parts found during his years alone, and looked up ways to improve/train quirks. Research says that to train a fire quirk, one must be both physically and mentally fit to handle them, lest they become dangerous and wild. He enrolled himself at a dojo for many forms of martial arts, cleaning Dagobah Beach to help with his training, also picking up on parkour and dance for flexibility. They were expensive, but the little money he had always stayed the same, a benefit to his part-time job of cleaning the neighbors' flats and stuff. He had 7 years until and he couldn't wait. This was his beginning as the greatest hero of all time, the symbol of hope. Training was painfully slow for Izuku, his 8-year-old body not really in a good condition. He was hungry and tired, but his spark, his fiery determination to help others powered him through it. His schedule was basically study, martial arts, dance, Dagobah cleaning combined with parkour after daily. Due to this extensive training over years, his abilities were all superhuman. He had a literal six-pack and stood at almost 6 foot tall, roughly about 5 foot 10 inches at the age of 14, going 15, he hit him like a bat out of hell. He also had to drop night training due to both his illegal parkouring and other extracurricular activities, garnering the attention of both heroes and villains alike. However, for 2 years, Izuku had refused to use his quirk to spit his parents, those villains. Why would he use their quirks? They gave him the scar that ran over his back. They left him, abandoned him. Why use their quirks to forever remind himself of his painful past? It wasn't until he heard All Might giving a speech about quirk discrimination, and a part of his speech clung to him like a leech, repeating in his mind, loud and boisterous, "A quirk is an extension of your body. It is only yours to command, nobody else's." A wise woman once said, "A quirk doesn't make you a hero or a villain, that is your own heart and choices that lead your path. Remember that." All Might finished, flashing his signature smile. Nobody could see the tears that ran down Izuku's face or the sobs that racked over his body, and the spark that had grown into a blaze in his soul. People at his school noticed the changes too, whispering how he had grown taller, had more defined muscles, his shirts were all a little small, leaving nothing for the imagination, and how his hair is cut short, showing his scar off. He towered over his peers, and no one dared say a thing about it, not even Bakugo, who had a pure hatred in his eyes, probably wanting to put Deku in his place, as he once so tactfully put it. No one messed with him anymore either, as just months into his training scheme, classmates tried to bully him, but ended with broken fingers, concussions, and one even had a finger permanently disfigured, and Izuku had no injuries at all, so he was left alone. During his years of training, he noticed how flawed the hero system is when he saw the number 2 hero endeavor brutally butcher a thief for stealing. Said thief was poor and trying to get food for his starving family. So, Izuku took it on himself to change it, becoming a vigilante to help, especially in areas that none of the heroes patrolled, leaving crime rates to skyrocket there. Night was popular, he often stopped crime, with little use of his quirk, no matter the person or crime, he tried to help. He helped an elderly lady with her groceries, a kitten stuck in a tree, which he adopted calling him Spitfire, and a boy being bullied. He just scared of the bullies with a glare, and helped the boy up. Many heroes felt threatened by this vigilante stealing their fame and tried to hunt him down. Heroes like Eraserhead hunted him, mostly because he was a slight annoyance for them, or they realized that he was young and wanted him to stop to protect him. Eraser fell into both and was often referred to as the Moth by Izuku. Other heroes left him be, saying that he was only trying to help. It was quite messy until he quit, left it behind so he could focus on getting into his dream school. Secretly, he had updated his quirk registry, naming his quirks 𝐻𝐿. The ability to produce and manipulate flames, as well as absorb any kind of heat, such as explosions, and store it in his body, and the other part was telekinesis, or advanced telekinesis, with the ability to move objects or people. Very powerful, especially when he can manipulate said flames to burn as hot as the sun, or not burn at all. Due to his past discrimination, he hid his quirk, wanting not to be in the spotlight too much, preferring to stay at the sidelines until he is ready to announce his presence to the world, to tell them that he is here to bring change for the better, a burning symbol of hope for a better world. Currently, Izuku is aged 15, sitting at the back of his classroom, waiting for the last bell to ring to signal the end of school and the beginning of summer. UA's entrance exams are close, and he must be ready for anything. In the corner of his eye, he saw the teacher reaching under his desk to reach something before speaking up. I hope you have all picked a high school. Who am I kidding? You all want to be heroes. He announces while tossing all the papers around. A bit unprofessional, Izuku thinks. The teacher decides to continue. Bakugo want into you. Murmurs spread throughout the classroom. Bakugo stood on his desk yelling out insults to the extras. The classroom freezes, however, as the teacher says, Midoriya, you too. Then they start whispering about him. Rumors had been spread about him. He never paid them mind, ignoring them, until Bakugo blasted his desk, shouting at him, You Deku are lower than all of these other extras, you're quirkless, and will never reach you. The teacher lightly asked Bakugo to back off, and as he did the bell had rang. As the rest of the class filed out, Izuku stayed behind, slowly placing his belongings into his bag. Behind him, he felt a presence, so he spun around and jumped into a defensive pose, only to see Bakugo and his posse. Then the angry Pomeranian spoke, Hey Deku, if you want a quirk so badly, why don't you take a swan dive off the roof and hope for a quirk in the next life? Bakugo and his group felt a chill run down their spine. Killer intent flooded the space around them as they set their gaze upon Izuku, who looked at them with contempt and anger, and then it stopped. Izuku simply stood up and left, leaving the 3 others frozen in place by fear. Not wanting to go home, he went the long way around, until he went under an underpass. He felt tingles spread up the back of his neck, danger imminent, so he spun on the heels of his feet to see a mass of flowing sewage coming at him. He wasted no time in sprouting his evergreen flames and throwing them at the sewage. He continued until it passed out, reaching the boiling point of the substance. Using his telekinesis, he gathered the thing in 2 sturdy bottles, and walked away from the scene, and as he left, he heard thundering footsteps behind him, so he turned to attack. Then he saw a flash of yellow, red and blue and stopped the flames being produced. Standing tall, All Might posed proudly, an intense aura of power surrounding him. His yellow bangs flowing in the wind, blue eyes scanning over Izuku's frame, then noticing the villain ensnared in the bottles. All Might boomed out a laugh, then said, "Young man. Well done. You caught the villain I was after." He was so loud. Fanboying, Izuku spoke for the first time in months. "All Might, sir, see can I have an autograph please?" His voice hoarse from the lack of speaking. Quickly, All Might signed the notebook, then moved off, shouting, "I must thank you, I'll take the villain for you." As he jumped into the air and away from Izuku who looked like a ghost. Shaking, he left, walking back home and preparing an intense workout for the next few months until the exam. That was overshadowed by the giddiness of meeting the #1 hero. It wasn't too long after the meeting that he heard an explosion ring out, smoke dragging up into the blue sky. He ran towards it, knowing that he might be able to stop whatever was going in. Running, he spotted a gathered crowd, and pushed past them to see the exact villain he caught running rampant, damaging the surrounding with explosives. Moving a little closer, he saw that the slime had a hostage, red eyes pierced out begging for help. Viridian eyes scanned the area, no heroes were helping him, shouting that their quirks can't help deal with the villain at hand, and they had to wait for backup. Without thinking, Izuku sprinted towards the villain, shouts of surprise and shock rang out but silenced as he dodged the explosions thrown carelessly at him. He grabbed an iron rod that had been from the rubble and retaliated for those attacks by throwing said bar into the eyes of the slime, causing it to flinch back and loosen its hold on Bakugo, before he yanked out the boy from the sewage. With Bakugo out, he went on the offensive, using his evergreen flames he made a katana, his favored weapon, to slice up the liquid, who couldn't fight back against this trained boy, before he collapsed and was captured. By now, everyone watching was dumbstruck by this random plain-looking boy defeating a villain with skill and finesse that the heroes themselves lacked. Cheering erupted for the boy who defeated the villain with little effort. Izuku simply looked at the flaming buildings before he pulled the fires towards him, extinguishing them. Once again the crowd cheered for him. The heroes at the scene pulled him aside, giving him both praise and a scolding for using his quirk, but mostly praise for how powerful his quirk was. He nodded along, not bothering to listen, and left soon after, not liking the attention, and needing to plan a new routine for his training to you. They're the school that taught All Might. It's going to be tough. Even with all his training, he failed to notice crystal blue eyes look at him from the crowd. 1 month into training, he finally finished his work of cleaning Dagobah Beach of its trash, and was the first to see the appealing sun rise, casting Mustafa in a warm orange glow. Now he needed a new training routine to replace cleaning Dagobah now that it was clean. As he was clearing up the rest of the trash, his eyes caught the sight of a tall, sickly-looking blonde looking at him, with one side on his right side, and a dribble of blood leaking from his lips. Totally not creepy. Izuku soon left the area, and went home. His calendar showed he still had 9 months till the a heroics entrance exam, and without Dagobah to clean, he lacked a large portion of his workout routine. He still had his dance and martial arts lessons but lacked any sort of strength training. Gyms were too expensive for Izuku. He barely had the money to pay for food. Luckily his parents had paid in full for the flat, so he needn't worry to pay rent, but gyms were way out of his pay grade. Suddenly, an idea popped into his mind: build weights using the junk from the beach. His fire could melt down metal into dumbbells, and increase the weight using his telekinesis by pulling down on them. Mind made up, he went to collect some heavy pieces of trash from the dump yard. He placed it all, and brought them home so that he can forge his dumbbells. Chills crawled up his spine as he went out of the dump yard into the cold nighttime air. He never noticed he took so long, but oh well, he can only do so much. The deserted land around him would do good so that no one could see him using his quirk illegally to melt the gathered objects into what he needed. The flames licked at the metal, heating it up fast, causing them to glow cherry red, until they melted and oozed into casts made in the ground like honey. Now it was time to wait. The liquid was extremely hot, obviously, so he had to wait for some time before they cooled into usable tools for training. The mixture of metals would also make them heavier so that he could push himself to the absolute limits of his strength. Izuku now had the tools to push his limits for the exam, and oh boy did he do that. The forged dumbbells weighed close to 250 kilograms each, and each time he tried to lift one of them, he could feel his muscles tearing themselves apart, but he pushed past the pain and kept training, and over 3 months, he could finally lift up the first one with little effort. Then he moved on to lifting up 2, totaling his weight lifting to 500 kilograms, give or take. This time, it was a tiny bit easier, however was still extremely difficult. He was no professional, but his unrivaled determination and spirit kept him going, pushing him, and with only 2 months to the entrance exam, he could lift at least 500 kilograms with relative ease. Every time he went to train, he noticed the same sickly skinny blonde watching him with those electric blue eyes. It was too unnerving and left if he ever saw the blonde. 2 months had flown by, and relaxed on his weight training, and focused on his flexibility and dexterity so he could be well-rounded, and not a one-trick pony, and had an ace up his sleeve. His new muscles weren't very flexible, but with time and effort, a whole ocean of effort, he could do jumping splits that could make the best gymnast jealous. Until finally, the entrance exams arrived like comet, and that's how Izuku found himself in front of you. And walking towards the exam hall, or he would have if he hadn't tripped on a loose rock in the road. Guess I'll die, Izuku thought as the ground came thundering towards his face, until it stopped as he floated away from it. A hand had found its way onto his shoulder and stopped him from collapsing to the ground. A feminine voice rang from behind him. "Hi. I stopped you with my quirk. I'll be off now, good luck." She ran off, leaving Izuku to look at her retreating back with confusion. He shrugged it off and he went in. Carefully he sat down at his place, many staring at the scar on his face, but he didn't mind, everyone did. Present Mike came on stage, then shouting, "Hi little listeners, are you ready?" Silence resounded in the room, very awkward. Bravely, he pushed on with his speech. "Today is the entrance exam. Are you excited? Yeah?" Poor Mike still had no responses, but powered on anyway. The written exam is 2 hours, then the physical portion is 15 minutes of fight robots. Yeah. With 2 hours, Izuku along with the rest of the examinees did their written exam. This paper was easy, he thought, with an hour left. He checked his answers over and over until he was satisfied. Relaxing, he sat back and waited for the physical part of the exam. With an hour he could plan out different strategies for the physical. The best he could think of is using his fire to make a katana that is hot enough to cut through metal. Present Mix shouting caused the written part of the exam to finish, and the physical to begin. All the exam takers sat nervously in their seats. This is possibly the hardest part of the whole exam. Once again, Present Mike appeared on stage, and using his quirk, exclaimed, "Hello again little listeners. Welcome to the physical section of the examination." He began, "All of you will be battling robots, of which will be tiered by difficulty, and will give more combat points, the higher the Mike explained, his eyes scanned over the tense crowd gathered, his smile foretelling of pain in the very near future. He moved, laser pointer in hand. Where did he get that from? Izuku thought. Watching the pro explain the robot points, a 1-pointer, 2-pointer, 3-pointer and a 0-pointer, the last being an obstacle, before screaming at the top of his lungs, "Now say it with me. Plus ultra A." This time, everyone responded to him and he grinned at them. "I'm ready for this, I have prepared since I was 8 years old, this is nothing. I did basic stretches for my back and legs, making them nice and loose, preparing. I saw Present Mike climbing up to a small platform, only I noticed so I moved to the front. As soon as the gates opened, I was off. Pulling myself into the air, I felt the cool breeze my face as I glided into the fake downtown city, with large metallic beasts roaming for prey. 1-pointers look easy, just a bit bigger than me, carrying a Gatling gun with RBB bullets, but the plates of armor look weak, and the joints in the legs and arms barely kept the thing upright. 2-pointers looked a little more dangerous, as they have an arachnoid-looking design with 8 legs and the body looked heavily reinforced. 3-pointers are similar to the both, probably a combination of the both, having a stinger-like tail, a cyclops crimson eye and pincer claws with a small gun on its shoulder. Diving down, I formed a jade green blade with my fire and sliced the joints of a 1-pointer, and it collapsed and I gained a point. My mind buzzed as more robots approached, most being the 2-pointers, so I grabbed an innards of the mechanical monstrosity and ripped them out, totaling me at by now. The others had run into the city after my stunt, but finding the main street filled with my wreckage. As they gained more points, I had gained over 48 by now, and as the time ticked down, I stopped to let the others gather points, as I sat at a comfortable 80 points. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 looked at the green-haired boy walk around the tangled mess of robots' parts grinning. This one is smart, he thought before he announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, the real show is about to begin." A maniacal grin spread on his face as a paw hit the big red button on his chair. The 0-pointer is here. Soon the 0-pointer was released. It was massive, at least 50 meters tall, and looked too strong to deal with alone, maybe with time to analyze it for the weak spots. But time is of the essence. I turned for a moment, then I had multiple shouts of pain. My eyes scanned the ground. 5 people are trapped under rubble, the 0-pointer closing in fast. With a war cry, I shouted, "Ultimate Phoenix!" Golden flames flooded out of my body, wrapping around me like the warmth of a blanket, and wings formed out of the fire. Then I burst out more flames that spit towards the enormous hunk of metal, melting the plates of armor as it sparked and stuttered, then exploded, molten metal dripping like water to the ground below. Shrapnel flung all over the area, almost hitting some of the other examinees, or they would have if I hadn't caught it all with my telekinesis. People looked at me wide-eyed as I not only had defeated the 0-pointer, but also stopped people from being injured by stopping the scrap in the air. My ears picked up the sound of the ending horn, so I moved to help everyone who was trapped up. It took some time, but eventually I got them all out and free, with the help of the youthful heroine, Recovery Girl. I left soon after, not wanting to speak to anyone about what happened. I dislike getting praise for something that everyone should be doing. The ride home was uneventful. I just sat down with my notebook, writing about the pro-heroes that work at you, and their quirks. Soon I reached the apartment, pushing open the near-rotting door and made my way inside, preparing for my letter from you. 2 weeks passed since the entrance exam. I kept up with my exercises and training, as well as my cleaning job of the apartment block. I only stopped when I saw a letter slip into my mail slot after cleaning next door's apartment. I wasted no time collecting it, taking it to my room and in ripping off the red seal that held the envelope together, and a metal disc dropped it onto my desk. Said disc then opened to form a hologram, where a tall, muscular blonde stood in a proud pose. All Might, I thought, why is he here? The projection answered my unasked question, telling me, "Izuku Midoriya. I bet you are wondering why I, All Might, am presenting your scores. Fear not, as I am a new member of the faculty at you. Haha. For your score you had 80 villain points, however. This was not the only part of the exam. For the second was rescue points. Your end stunt earned you 75 rescue points. You earned first place in the U.A. entrance exam." Beaming proudly, his smile shone like the sun, before becoming softer as All Might spoke up, "Come, young Midoriya. This is your hero academia." All Might shouted before the hologram disc detonated itself. I couldn't help the tears that streaked down my face, my foot at the starting line to becoming the symbol of hope. Unbeknownst to Izuku, during his exam he was being watched by the teachers at U.A. They chatted idly as the exam had progressed, commenting on the examinees, noticing a tall, green-haired flame wielder cut the robots down with a flaming sword, and literally tearing robots apart, while also giving out tips to the other examinees. In Zone B, 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲, the principal, called out, I do believe that we have a truly heroic spark amongst the exam takers." Jovially spoke as he sipped on a random cup of tea he pulled out of thin air. The rest of the staff nodded, but one hiding in a dark corner, black eyes gleamed with interest, asked out loud, "What's his name, 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐴?" With a monotone voice. No one spoke as the creature principal handed over the file silently to him. A beat of silence, then 𝐒𝐮𝐴 spoke up once again. "His name is Izuku Midoriya, age 15, male, quirk, Adstrom, a powerful combination of pyrokinesis and telekinesis, no known emergency contact information, no parental information as it was left blank on the application. However, he doesn't even need to complete high school as he has done online courses for college and university, in mathematics, English, heroic histories and combat courses too for the military and his own P.I. license. The info drop garnered the focus of all in the room. Before the black-eyed man spoke up tiredly, seems like a problem child to me, but he does have potential, only a small amount. What of his parents? Orphan. Once again, a silence swept the room. No one said a word until the man continued, what if this Izuku Midoriya was abandoned and left alone? A background check may be the best shot. If he was left alone for how long? A problem child indeed, he had thought silently. He wanted him in 1A. The vibes that Midoriya gave off were like a well-known vigilante once called 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐸𝐵, who disappeared 10 months before the entrance exam. Shoyuta Aizawa? Or Eraserhead has an issue with this Izuku Midoriya. He always trusts his instincts, and they are telling him that this boy was not right. It didn't sit right with him, no, not at all. See, he is a worrier, he hides the fact very well with his emotionless facade and cold demeanor, but he worries about things, and this boy has something to hide in his past. Shoyuta immediately jumped to the worst conclusion in his mind, which is that Midoriya is abused by a parent or both. His gut tells him to investigate, to see if Midoriya is safe, but he can't, not until he is part of you. So he stepped back into his sleeping bag in the corner, napping away the worry. That settled in him. Standing next to Nizu, a tall, frail blonde with drooping bags looked at the greenette on the screen, as dull phantom pain echoes through what was once his stomach as he thought, can he be the one to carry the torch? His time is decreasing faster each day, the torch must be passed on, and this boy is his best bet. Also, one for all seems to be pulled in by the boy, maybe he can be the new symbol that the world needs. After All Might retires, the world will need a new pillar, and this boy, this green-haired, plain boy might just be that. Blue eyes looked around the room, the rest all started to file out, going back to the main building, until only two remain, a sickly blonde and tired cat-like man. It was a tense silence until the Aizawa spoke up. This is Izuku Midoriya. There is something wrong with him, he is hiding something, watch him. That was all Aizawa said to him before leaving All Might, or Toshinori Yagi now, to his own devices. He could do that, he already did it before until he was noticed. The green-headed boy had good instincts, but he was an MSTR, and Toshinori still had to see if he could be the ninth holder, the new torchbearer. The day has come. My first day at UA is here, and I could feel the nervousness pooling in my gut. I could barely make my tie. It was an absolute mess, so I left it. School is a short train ride from my apartment, and I had soon arrived at the academy. My search for 1A leads me to a massive door, probably made for someone with a mutation quirk or one that allows them to transform into something massive. From inside, I hear the distinctive shouting of Bakugo and seemingly robot voice. I waste no more time and move open the door, to see Bakugo with his feet on the desk, and a tall brunette shouting at him to remove his feet. I can already feel the dull beat of a headache forming in my mind. Take you feet of the desk right now. You are disrespecting the makers and upperclassmen who had used it. Robot Boy shouted at Bakugo, who in turn snarled and shouted back. Who the hell are you extra? What middle school you from? He barked at the robot. The response is, I am from Semi Academy. My name is Ida Tenya. And he abruptly cut off as he noticed me gawking at him in the doorway. He bolted up to me and asked, and who might you be? Gesticulating wildly, his hands moving up and down. Before I could respond to the robot boy, Bakugo demands, Deku, how the hell did you get here? He growls aggressively at me. I look into his crimson eyes, showing him I'm not afraid of him anymore. Returning my eyes back to Robo Boy, I point to my neck, then write down on a scrap of paper, I'm selectively mute, but my name is Izuku Midoriya. The boy nodded twice, then he moves back to Bakugo, who sat silently fuming, a scowl ingrained on his face. As I make my way to my desk, my eyes fall onto a quiet boy at the back. His split hair, half red and half white, his heterochromia, and scar on his right side all stand out. He looks stunning, I think, before I can stop myself. Then I realize I'm staring at him, and he stares back with a cold, closed-off look. Shaking my head, I let myself move to my seat, unable to take my mind off the pretty boy in the corner, but before I can continue with my train of thought, the large door slides open, but no one comes in. That was until a yellow caterpillar pops up, unzipping itself to reveal our teacher, with a tired, deadpan look. Noise dies down as we all look at the man, who takes out a random juice pack and sips it slowly, much to the discomfort to the class, before he speaks up, right. It took you 8 seconds to calm down. Irrational. My name is Shoyuta Aizawa, and put these on. He now pulls out a sports uniform, and make your way out to training field, he told us with a monotone voice before slithering out again. The class sat in silence for a few seconds, unable to comprehend what had just happened, then Ida spoke up, "You heard sensei, let's move." Reacting to the teen, the rest moved to their respective changing rooms. Once inside the changing room, I start to undress, or I would have if I didn't hear behind me, "Whoa, what happened to your back, dude?" A blonde-haired boy with a lightning bolt in his hair shouted, pointing at my heavily scarred back. All eyes turned to me, looking at my back and the ugly scar that had formed thanks to my father's fire. The scar covered most of my back, tentacles of scar tissues bending around my abdomen and over my shoulders, and it isn't pleasant sight at all. Shivering under the collective gaze, I got changed fast and made my way out to the training ground where Aizawa stood idly with a bored face. Before looking at me, dead eyes light up with something which I can't explain. We stood in awkward silence, waiting for the rest to change, neither wanting to spark a conversation, until the rest of the class joined, and Aizawa spoke, "You take too long. Today we are doing a test of physical abilities," his black eyes scanning across the gathered crowd, lingering on me for a split second longer, before nice girl from the exam decided to ask, "But what about the introduction ceremony?" Dismissively, Aizawa shook his head, answering with, "We don't have time to waste on such formalities. I have 3 years to WHP you all into heroes, so yes, we are doing a physical test. Also, I will allow quirks to be used." This riled the class up, an alien girl announcing the tests sound like fun. Without a notice, a dark aura surrounds the group, all eyes move to Aizawa, who said, "Fun you say? Well then, if that is the case the person in last place will be expelled on the spot," he told with a terrifying grin. Protests sparked in the class, them shouting that it's not fair. Aizawa with dead seriousness told us, "Fair? You think that this world is fair? Natural disasters? Random villain attacks? These aren't fair either, so why should this be? Now go beyond, plus ultra." He shouted the end with no enthusiasm at all. We start with a 50-meter dash, which I took first place using my telekinesis to pull myself to the end line, resulting in a 3-second score. Second place went to Ida, who had literal engines in his legs. The second test is a grip test, and a boy with multiple arms got 540 kilograms, getting him first place, with me not far behind with 520 kilograms, using my strength alone, the rest had average. After the grip test, we did a standing long jump, which I cleared the box using my telekinesis to lift my body into the air. Bakugo used his explosions to fly over the box, as well as a boy with a literal laser coming from his belly button. Oddly, he looked to left as if to look at someone, yet there is no one there. Continuing, the next test is repeated side steps. The only outstanding score is a small purple boy with purple ball as hair, who used it to hop from side to side with extreme speed. Finally, the last test is a ball throw. Aizawa, who has been near silent from the beginning, speaks up. "Midoriya, you had the most combat points in the exam. Your first," he ordered whilst throwing a white ball at me. I caught it easily, and stepped into the circle, readying myself to throw the ball with my telekinesis, until I felt something tug at my chest. A tearing sensation ran throughout my body, red eyes and golden goggles caught my eyes as I turned to our teacher, exclaiming, "Eraserhead D, the eraser Ichiro." Confused murmurs spread throughout the class, and Aizawa looked mildly impressed. "You know me, kid, when?" I nodded in reply. He spoke again. "Why are you using your full power? Are you mocking everyone, or are you afraid of your power?" Anger filled his tone. "Izuku Midoriya, if you do not use that power, I will expel you right now," leaving no room for argument, and then he released his quirk, and giving me mine back, and stepped back. Frustrated, I turned to Sensei, now Eraserhead, and shocking almost everyone, spoke clearly with no stutter, "Eraserhead, you have no idea why I hold back my power." I turned back to the circle, before whispering, Shoyuta can't help but think, "What has happened to you, Midoriya?" As he watches the boy. Ultimate Phoenix. Gold flames formed wings, then flames wrap around the ball, building up power. Releasing it sends shockwaves out, the sound barrier breaking with a sonic boom. Seconds later, Aizawa's tracking device dinged, a fear-inducing smile stretched on his face, turning and showing my results. 1243 meters. The class exclaimed with wide eyes at the impressive score I had. Bakugo looks at me with unbridled fury, hands popping wildly with explosions and propelling him towards me, but is stopped by gray bandages that wrap tightly around him, preventing him reaching me. He tries to explode the bandages, but Aizawa dully speaks up, "Quirk activated. They are made of a steel wire cloth woven with carbon nanotubes, very hard to break. So stop. You're giving me dry eyes." Internally, I wince, such an awesome quirk but such a bad drawback. He pulls out eyes drops from his utility belt and squeezes the liquid into each eye, then dismissively waves his hand, telling us to continue. Gravity Girl, Achiko Uraraka, I believe is the only one that beats my score, earning an infinity by sending the ball out of Earth's orbit. Once the tests are completed, I stand silently waiting for Aizawa to show our scores. He taps on his device, and a blue hologram appears with our scores on them. They go. St. Izuku Midoriya ND Momo Yaoyorozu RD Shudo Todoroki dich Katsuki Bakugich Tenya Ida Teich Fumikage Tokoyami Teich Mizo Shoji dich Mashareo Ojiro dich Ijiro Kirishima dich Mina Ashido dich Achiko Uraraka dich Koji Koda dich Rikido Sato dich Su Azui dich Yuga Oyama Hantasiro dich Denki Kaminari dich Kyoka Jiro dich Toru. Hagakure dich Minor Mineta. Tears fall like fountains from Purple Ball Boy as he screams, but I never got to feel the girls. AC. He's stopped by Aizawa, who wraps his gear around Purple and says, "Minoru Mineta, you're expelled from you. Pack your things and go home." Changing is awkward with one less classmate, and class is worst with one empty seat with tense silence over the class until the end of the day. Slowly I trudge out of you, readying myself to get home, until I hear Ida behind me, "Hello Midoriya. Today has been good, has it not?" I raise an eyebrow. Ida continues, "Aizawa is a tough teacher, but that is expected of you." Doing that weird hand thing again. We walk together to the train station. We stop again as a feminine voice behind us shouts, "Hey you two. Are you going the train station? Can I come with you please?" I nod. Ida goes on a tangent about how it would be a pleasure for her to join. I wave at my two new friends, excited for tomorrow. I wonder what will happen. Waking up, I stretch my arms out, listening to the satisfying noise off my joints popping from their sleep. Slowly, I creep into my bathroom, shuffling with tired feet dragging on the carpet as I open the door. After I finish my shower and brushing my teeth, I remove myself out and back into my bedroom to get ready for the rest of the upcoming day. As I do leave, the mirror reflects my body, showing me tough lean muscles, a 6-inch 2-foot height and a sharp jaw. No wonder I had so many eyes on me in middle school if I looked like this. A/N he's a cinnamon roll but demon he's hot. Not long after, I got dressed in my uniform, packed my things into my yellow bag that is worn down from the decade of use without a replacement. Bags are expensive, what can I say? My shoes aren't in a good condition either, scrounged from clothes recycle bin. Do other countries have them? I know the UK does and left to you. A short walk from my apartment later, I reached the main gates of UA only to see them blocked with a horde of vultures, reporters, hounding on about how they want an interview with All Might as well as pouncing on any UA students they could get their grubby claws on. Batting through the reporters, I feel someone crash into my back, my head turns to look, and I see familiar bob-cut brown hair with a slightly scared expression. Ida isn't faring much, crowded by the reporters that ask about All Might. We manage to get through them and into UA. Aizawa coming out as we come in telling us, "Get inside, I'll deal with the media." I swear I hear him mutter, "DM and beast," under his breath as he rushes past us. We head inside to get to our classroom whilst chatting idly. Shoyuta cursed. "All Might working at you. Wasn't supposed to be learned so soon. He thought about 3 to 5 days, not after the first day. How did they find out? He can figure that out later. Right now he had to ward off the horde. Minutes into homeroom, Izawa had yet to arrive, and the silence devolved into chatter about the day and the reporters at the front. I debated with Ida about a new and upcoming hero and their quirk. Izawa soon came in, looking more disheveled and sleep-deprived than normal, and promptly collapsed into his sleeping bag, letting us talk for the rest of homeroom. Lessons in you. Followed the same as middle school, mandatory maths, English, history and science, but in you. Hero courses had hero training last. Sat waiting, I could feel the collective excitement in the room, our last PRD hero training, but we don't know our teacher yet. Rapid footsteps approached our room until the door burst off its hinges as a large bulky blonde shouted, "I am coming through the door like a normal person," said the number 1 hero. Shouts of joy resounded in the room, comments like his suit being his Silver Age costume to him teaching us. Watching the man carefully, I noticed the tense, rigid posture as he moved to the podium, and when he went behind, he began speaking again. "Welcome to basic hero training. Today's lesson will be..." He paused, pulling out a card, showing it, "Combat training." The excitement on my classmates doesn't affect me. I already had combat training as 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐸𝐵𝐵. The most excited appeared to be Bakugo. That's no surprise, however. He's allowed to beat up anyone without consequences. I hope I go against him, knock him down of his high horse. We get ready to leave, but All Might stops us saying, "We can't forget our costumes, can we?" As he pressed a button revealing 19 briefcases, mine being last. I grab it and leave to the changing room, opening it to reveal my suit. It's something to behold, that for sure. A sleek black undersuit made of carbon nanotube to go under everything for protection, and it's skin tight, showing my lean muscles. My boots had an upgrade, being white for one, with green flames designed onto them and reaching up past my knees. I have a white trench coat, with the back reaching down to the back of my calves, with green flames rising from the bottom. My chest had an armor plate on it. Said plate is white with a green star on it. My arms had gloves that go past my elbows. They are green with different color flames on each side. On the right, they're red, on the left they're blue, with wristbands on each acting as buttons. The costume can withstand the elements: cold, hot, electricity, and brute force. Clicking on my gauntlets, they beeped, showing they are activated, then the flames started to glow brightly. Once I'm ready, I leave the changing room to find everyone else donning their suits, and as I step out, all eyes turn to me, then widen at my suit's design. I scratched the back of my neck, slightly unnerved by the stare, then All Might coughed, regaining the class's attention. He began to explain our training. "Today, students, we will be doing activate combat against one another." He announced. One hand rose. "Without proper training, sir." "Azui, I believe?" asked. She was waved off as All Might spoke. "Yes. I believe in learning on the job." "No." Unceremoniously, he pulled out notes, and I used all my willpower not to laugh. "Amateur. We will be split up into teams. One team will be villains, the other heroes. The heroes have to secure a nuclear weapon or capture the villain team." Sounds very Western. Now the teams will be decided by draw, holding up 3 boxes. One says villain, another says hero, and the last decided the team composition. Ida, in all his robotic glory, asks, "Is drawing lots the best method of deciding teams?" Whilst chopping the air, Yaoyorozu answers before All Might, "This is to simulate real life. In real hero work, we will have to make a team on the fly, so this makes sense to do," she told intellectually. All Might nodded sagely, coughing into his fist. "Now, here are the teams. Izuku Midoriya and Achiko Uraraka Team A, Shoto Todoroki and Mizo Shoji Team B, Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida and Momo Yaoyorozu Team C, Yuga Aoyama and Mina Ashido Team D, Rikido Sato and Koji Koda Team E, Denki Kaminari and Kyoka Jiro Team F, Fumikage Tokoyami and Tsuyu Azui Team G, Mashireo Ojiro and Toru Hagakure Team H, Ijiro Kirishima and Hantasiro Team I. The teams all got together and started planning. I hear Uraraka come up behind me, saying, "Hey Deku. Wow, your costume looks amazing." I nod in thanks. "Mine's a bit too tight." "Oh well." It was very tight, showing her curves, but it would go well with a space theme, I think. I simply shrug and nod back to All Might, who has our team positions. Here we are, the teams. Villains. Team A, Team I, Team G, Team F. Heroes. Team C, Team H, Team E, Team B, Team D, and going first is Team A vs Team C. Instantly, I feel a heated glare at the back of my head. I know exactly who it is, but I don't even acknowledge him, which is angering him further. Both Uraraka and I move into the location that holds the bomb for us to protect. We need a plan, so I hesitantly speak up. Uraraka, we need a plan. Do you have any suggestions? I ask, coughing a little at the end. She shakes her head. Like a light bulb, I get an idea and quickly whisper it to her. She whispers back, I love it. Let's do this. Punching the air with charisma. Breathing, I calm myself. I must play the part of a villain, give them a show, play the part. Suddenly, a horn blares off. The match has begun. Moving down the hall, I plan to face the heroes head-on, distract them from our real plans. They can't do anything other than a frontal assault, so I meet them halfway. Confined in a tight corridor, we meet, 1 against 3. Ferally I grin, speaking in harsh tone, so, heroes, welcome. I begin. I do like these odds. Yes, indeed. I know I can beat you all instantly. I challenge, riling them up. It works. Bakugo looks furious, honestly. It is rather pathetic, really. You all look so weak, so puny to me. Especially Explosion for brains there. The reaction is instant. The Knight and Creationist both shout for Bakugo to stop. Nothing will now, though. Explosions rocket the boy towards me. I simply raise my eyebrow condescendingly at him as he cries out in anger. His fist is raised, explosions popping off, nearing closer and closer. Time slows down as the two behind Bakugo watch as his fist is caught in 2 fingers, then the fist is wrapped by my hand as I throw Bakugo over my shoulder and onto the floor with a loud thud, with spittle flinging from his mouth. Bakugo tries to get up, but realizes he can't as I use my telekinesis to force Bakugo up, throwing him like a wooden doll, crashing into walls, steadily becoming more beaten up and bloodied. Once finished, he turned to the other 2 who are too shocked to move, noticing from behind the Knight, Uraraka stood, and with her chunks of concrete, I give the thumbs up, and Uraraka releases the chunks. Chunks started volleying towards the other team, trapping Ida's legs, but with Yaoyorozu's quick thinking, she made a shield to block them. She couldn't, however, stop the capture tape from going around her with telekinetic power. Bakugo was knocked. I could practically see the broken bones he had. Ida and Yaoyorozu were both wrapped in capture tape. A decisive victory. The villains win. I hear All Might announce from the speakers. Slowly, I unravel the tape of the other team and make my way but up to the observation deck. Time to find out what the others think. Shuffling into the room, all eyes shifted to the 3 of us, most falling onto me with awe and fear in those eyes. Silence weaved its way into the room. All Might decided to break it, saying, well then. Please, will someone tell me who is the MVP of this match? No one answered the pro. I swear I could hear cricket noises. Yaoyorozu spoke up after coughing into her fist. Well, I believe it would be Midoriya, sir. Why I believe this is that he came up with a plan, fought 3 adversaries off, all the while playing the part of the villain. His plan also was ingenious. Antagonized Bakugo into attacking so that Ida had no space to run at him, and I could not use my bow staff to attack with no openings due to Bakugo's relentless attacking. He distracted all 3 of us whilst Uraraka gathered ammunition to go against us. Defeating Bakugo so soon would leave us without raw firepower and vulnerable to attack, which both exploited. She finished her in-depth analysis of the match. Impressive. The clear sweat that dripped of All Might's eyebrow told that he didn't expect such an analysis. Stuttering, he told, well done, young Yaoyorozu. The MVP is young Midoriya. All of your points are correct. His plan and acting were well executed. Well done, villains. Next, teams go go go. The rest of the matches I paid little attention to, only their quirks and fighting styles, gauging their power as well as ways to defeat them. One weakness, for example, is that they all are dependent and reliant on their quirks, not their hand-to-hand combat or physical strength. All Might's lesson continues, but the number one hero is getting impatient, rapidly tapping his foot, looking at the clock, or ushering the next team out after the round's analysis. Time crunch. Maybe a teacher meeting he may be late to. He seems like a person who is always late to things, even with his powers. One point, I can swear I saw a drop of BLD leak from his mouth. Not longer after the final trail, All Might bolts of at breakneck speeds. Dust kicked up behind him as he left us to get changed to go home, so we leave to the changing room, Ida speaking up as we enter. Midoriya. Your skills at acting and combat are impressive. I wish to be that good. Then just marches of to get changed. A quirky guy for sure. Once in our uniforms again, I said of home, needing to have a cup of coffee and sleep, but as I step out of you, I feel a gaze on my back watching me like a hawk. Watching its prey. Walking fast, I try to outrun the person now following me, trying to avoid suspicious, as I power walk to my apartment complex and whoever is following me is fast, but I'm faster, so I sprint the rest of the trek to my apartment, colors merging into a palette of blur until my eyes fall upon my apartment block. I come to a stop, heaving breaths heavily as I gain the needed oxygen for my lungs. Slugging myself to the apartment stairs, I come up to my door and unlock it with my key, twisting it slowly, only to reveal. Shoyuta tried to follow the green-haired student home after basic hero training, but he must admit the boy is fast, a blur down the streets and gone lost into thin air. Sighing, he pulled out his flip phone and rang Nizu, asking the creature to pull up Midoriya's home address. He needed to do a home visit. Happily, Nizu gave the address, and Shoyuta made his way a dingy apartment complex, old but livable, in a bad neighborhood, the rumored neighborhood that Crimson Blaze comes from. Creaky metal stairs groan under Shuta's weight, the paint flicking off the surface, showing rusted metal below, and in dire need of repair, yet none being made. He climbs the rest of the way, reaching the Midoriya's residence, and used the spare key he had gotten from the landlord before his impromptu visit. Inside is as bad as the outside, dirty, unclean with dust everywhere made Shoyuta twitch. How can his student live in these conditions? Moving on, he investigated the bathroom, a usual telltale sign of the occupants of a place, only to see one toothbrush, with shampoo and conditioner for only one person. Where are his parents? Are they on a trip? A sudden thought poked into his head. What if he was abandoned? That's the best theory so far. Midoriya's parents abandoned him, the time they left unknown. Shoyuta needed answers, and Izuku Midoriya had them, so he waited for him. He shouldn't be too long with his speed and the distance. He should arrive in 10 minutes. Shoyuta himself arrived by car. Deciding to be creepy, he sat on a chair in the corner, all lights except the one next to him, and played the waiting game. Won't be long now. Izuku burst into panic. God, his teacher, the creepy moth, decided a home visit was due, and was sitting in a dark corner, with a light shining on his face that held that god-awful smile that Satan himself would fear. The moth speaks up, Midoriya, hello there. To break the tense atmosphere, I decide to joke around a bit. General Kenobi, I've been expecting you. I say, pretending to wheeze and cough. Aizawa's face becomes something a little more sincere, an actual smile on his face, and a small laugh, which startles me. He can laugh. Before it twists into a grimace, his voice monotone, problem child, where are your parents? They aren't here. His tone was expectant. I sigh, I kinda maybe slightly trust him. He is a teacher and a pro-hero after all. He is trustworthy. To tell or not to tell, for that is the question. Some seconds later, I just decide to tell the truth. He needs to know so he can leave me alone. Oh, you sweet innocent child. He's attached to you now. My parents. I choke, the topic being sensitive for me. They left me at the age of 4. The last word got a reaction, wide eyes, jaw agape. They said that I was useless to them and left me a gift, I say, before removing my shirt to show Aizawa my scarred back. I have lived here ever since. They had already paid for the apartment, but I work so that I can pay for food and lessons. A deep, sad sigh forces out of Aizawa's mouth, his eyes filled with a storm of emotions, anger, sadness, grief, sincerity. A harsh head shake. I shouldn't have burdened him. I'm better of alone. Aizawa speaks slowly. All this. Since the age of 4. What about your childhood? Growing up? I shrug. Being bullied and abused by classmates is fun. I reply, yes, and growing up I was bullied. The scar on my face is a sign of that. I sigh wearily. I was misdiagnosed as quirkless, resulting in mass abuse and bullying from peers and classmates. A bitter laugh. Bakugo was my best friend once upon a time, until he became the worst abuser of them all. He gave me the scar I bear. Down my face ran tears, crying, how long ago did I last cry? Aizawa said nothing. I bulldoze onwards. At 8 I got my quirk. A hybrid of my parents, pyrokinesis and telekinesis. Aizawa, I was so afraid of it. My voice is coarse like sandpaper, ugly tears streaming down my face. So I hid it from the world. All Might changed my view on it, however, 2 years after the awakening. I had already began to train my body at 8, so at 10, I decided to help. Aizawa's face showed confusion. He had no idea. I won't tell you how, but I did, and during my helping, I stumbled upon a ruined battlefield. In the center of a crater laid a hero, beaten and bruised. I helped her away from the scene and patched her up best a 10-year-old can. She was dying. I knew she was, so I used my flames in a way no other flame user can. I healed her. Blown away, Aizawa sat. This boy. We left soon after, the hero saying she'll mentor me for a bit before leaving, vanishing, she said, like dust in the wind. About 5 months after the mentorship offer, she told me her name as she left. Aizawa leaned in. Nana Shimura, Shoyuta sat, shell-shocked. This boy crawled through hell and back so many times, and still smiled like the sun itself. He's heard villains with less of a tragic story become villains. Yet this boy here stood firm, determined to be a hero to the very end. His mind logically supplied that this boy had to be protected, no matter the cost. My God. The kid has been alone for almost 11 years and still survived. He's strong, and has a will made of god DM and titanium. Watching carefully, Izuku sees Aizawa's face become blank, no sign of emotion, like it was erased, as he stands up, telling me he has some calls to make, and leaving my apartment in a hurried fashion. Well then. Too tired to stop him, I leave to change and go to bed. I need some sleep after the info drop on my teacher, the dull throbbing of pain spikes on my back, an awkward itching sensation. Laying down, my mind buzzes with the events that had just transpired in my living room, anxiety creeping up my spine as I wonder what is going to happen to me now. They may kick me out of you. Anxiety-ridden, I simply lay in bed, trying to reel in my swirling emotions and thoughts, but nothing works, forcing me to listen to them as they repeat the past memories of my parents telling me I'm worthless while they burn me. Seething with anger isn't a normal for Shoyuta. He's used to calmness and irritation at times, but this is something new for him. Problem child's past makes his skin crawl and beneath the skin burn with white-hot fury, and he has no idea what to do with these emotions, or how to get rid of them. Suddenly, his phone dings. His hand reaches into one of his pockets and pulls his phone out, the text from Hisashi, or his husband. Deep breaths, he tells himself, before texting back his husband telling him that he is on his way home and may need a famous Hisashi massage. This is worse than Shoyuta suspected. Midoriya needed help fast, with no guardian who knows what could happen or what has happened so far, this past 11 years. As Shoyuta entered his house, he heard the 13 cats meowing at him for attention, scratching his breathes, so he gave in and scratched them behind the ear. He plopped onto the sofa, waiting for Hisashi to return, and he did within 2 minutes with a loud, "Hello," being screamed as he knocked on the door, even though he lives here and has his own key. The idiot, as dumb as a box of rocks sometimes. Shoyuta waits for 30 seconds for him to figure it out, and he doesn't, so with a groan he moves to the door to unlock it and let Hisashi in for the massage and rant. With his hands on his hips and a large, face-spitting smile on his face stood Hisashi in his civilian clothes as not to attract the attention of actual civilians and worse, the media. Lazily, Shoyuta waves Hisashi in and moves to sit on the sofa, whilst the other prepares to massage and listen to the rant that is about to happen. Hisashi speaks, "Shoyuta, I'm here to listen, babe. Tell me please so we can help together." And with that, Shoyuta spills all the beans about Midoriya and what has happened to the lovable green bean. Hisashi all the while, bless him, rubbed his shoulders gently, offering his calm responses, keeping his anger out and emotion support, all the while giving him a killing massage that no one can beat. Magical man. Both men are righteously angry, Hisashi expressing his anger more than Shoyuta, but still supporting Shoyuta in a way no other can. Now with the information gathered, they can start planning correctly and get what Midoriya needs most. Family love. Hisashi rings up Mizudafu Police Precinct and asks for adoption papers whilst also asking for the best detective in the force, giving the responder on the phone his name and hero license number. Detective Tsukachi answered the number given by the responder, and Hisashi retold the tale of Midoriya Izuku, a student, and asks if he could perform an investigation into him. The detective readily agrees to investigate. Shoyuta thinks before he sleeps, Izuku will have the justice he deserves. On the other end of the line, a weary detective sighs. Not expecting such a heavy case to fall on his lap this late in the evening, but he will do it anyway. This child has seen the world too early, and something needs to be done in some way, and he's willing to throw his assistance in to help. Coffee drifts into his nose as his door snaps open, showing a tall, skinny blonde holding 2 coffees in his hand, trying and failing to wave at him. Naomosa smiles. Tashinori is always pleasant to speak to. Ah, Toshi. Welcome, old friend. Please sit. Gesturing to the chair at his desk. The frail man does as he is told whilst handing Naomosa with his coffee, noting the more tired he looked. Hi Naomosa, how have you been? You look extra tired today, Toshi remarked, his gaunt cheeks splitting into a small comforting smile. Naomosa replies, I'm fine, just a new case that had arrived just before you entered. It's quite heavy, but I'll do it, but it will take time. Confusion etched onto Tashinori's face as he wondered what kind of case can get his best friend in this kind of mood. Naomosa tells him, child abandonment, severe neglect, physical assault of a minor, illegal quirk usage, quirk discrimination. All on a child, aged 15. Shock filtered onto Tashinori's face. No wonder, it's a near miracle the kid survived these conditions. You may know him. Tashinori perks up. Izuku Midoriya. You? A student. BLD pours from his face. Young Midoriya. He suffered this. My God. Sad silence entered the room unwelcomed. This boy, potential successor for One for All, suffered from all of this, and yet he still wants to be a hero, showing how strong he truly is, not breaking with the weight of the world on his shoulders, like Atlas. One for All roared to life, his voice deep. Young Midoriya is strong and deserves so much better than fate has given him. All Might shouted. Naomosa smiled, talking to him. Yes, he does. Maybe Eraserhead can give him what every child needs. Love. With Shoyuta, he tore through the adoption papers with the speed of All Might. He needs to save this boy, his boy, and by all that is unholy he will. He already had all the legal requirements, a house, stable income, stable job. Now all he needs is Izuku's permission to be adopted. That can wait until after tomorrow after school. By the end of tomorrow, Izuku Midoriya will have Shoyuta Aizawa and Yamada Hisashi as legal guardians and parents. They'll smother the child with all the love in the world. The cinnamon roll that he is will be given parental love. Tomorrow will be a change for Izuku Midoriya. With no sleep, I drag myself out of my bed feeling like death ran me over with a truck. I'm still anxious about yesterday. What will happen now? I wonder as I get dressed for a new day. Red ties still not being tied properly, even messier today than yesterday. Sluggishly, I walk out after changing, grabbing my bag and a flask of coffee to give me strength to make it through today without being tired that much. DMN insomnia. The train ride is normal, the cart being packed with people of all ages, all being quite due to it being morning, and I getting shoved about thanks to my tiredness. The coffee hadn't kicked in yet. After the surprisingly slow ride, I reach A's gates, and yet again the media is still there. I wouldn't put it past them to have camped outside the gates for an interview. I walk into the school, watching as others pass me to get to lessons. One blonde boy practically beaming with a cartoony-looking face faded into the ground, scaring everyone until he emerged again, stark naked. Today should be normal, but my gut is telling me something sinister is lurking, and it doesn't seem right, so I put up my defenses, always on alert. Years of vigilantism taught me to always trust my instincts, and they are telling me to be careful, something wicked this way comes. I facepalm, I quoted Macbeth, DMNU present mic. So far today's been normal, Izawa giving me an indescribable look, before announcing that we need a class president and vice president for 1A. This caused a chain reaction where all the class exploded in cheers, everyone wanting the position until Ida asked us to vote for our leader. I voted for Yaoyorozu. Her tactful analysis was on point and has a very leaderish vibe. Much to my surprise and chagrin, I was voted for class president, and for the second time I face palm, and hand the role to Yaoyorozu as president and Ida who'll be vice, both accepting the role as I sat down. 5 votes. What the hell were they thinking? At lunch, the vote was brought up. I asked, how was I Ted Farrar? Stuttering the sentence out, before Ida put it out that I had charisma and the ability to be a leader, I turned and told him that he too had the same qualities but lacks the anxiety I have. We sit in silence for a few minutes as we eat. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 for me, the rest had white rice. However, before I could finish, an alarm sounded, screeching about a level 3 security breach and an intruder on the premise. I find myself pressed against the window, looking to the gates, only to see those vultures from before being fended off by Eraserhead and present Mike, with the barrier being destroyed. Ida floats with the assistance of Uraraka to announce that it is just the media, and that there is nothing to panic about. All the while still doing that odd hand gesture he does. Is that his hero name? Engine Hero, Mr. Roboto. Settling down in class for our last lesson, basic hero training once again, we watch as Izawa walks in, holding a card whilst announcing, "Get ready. We're going to do rescue training today." He demanded whilst holding up a rescue card, before adding on as he walked out, "By the way, you can wear you suits if you like," then completely left us. Outside, we see Izawa standing idly next to a bus, tapping his foot rapidly, eyes looking around the area like he was searching for something, or someone perhaps. Once we are all out, Izawa tells us to get on the bus, Ida trying to regain order of the group whilst getting us in order to fill the bus, but the layout is incorrect for Ida's plan. Aboard the bus, everyone is chatting amicable among one another before 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 speaks up, "Hey Midoriya. Ribbit. I find your quirk interesting, like endeavors or something." Rip. I feel my eye twitch at being compared to the monster, replying frustratedly, "Please do refrain from comparing me to that burning trash, if you would kindly." Silence filled the bus from the hateful comment about the number 2 hero. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 speaks again. "My apologies. I see you harbor resentment for him. Why is that, may I ask?" I shrug. It's not too bad. Once upon a time, I was an 11-year-old boy. I start, people lean in, walking down the street. I see a rugged man bolt past me, just behind Endeavor. The man had no time to prepare as that villain called a hero punctured the man's heart with a spear of fire. Aghast faces looked at me. The man murdered was a petty thief stealing to feed his daughter, as both were dirt poor and couldn't afford food. He's no hero, he murders, he's vile. That monster shouldn't be a hero. I will change that. You will see. I looked to the back of the bus. Todoroki looked positively joyous at someone hating Endeavor. Maybe he hates the man too, even though he is his father. The man is vile. Izawa hid a smile in his capture gear, proud at his soon-to-be son, before he spoke up. "Right. We're here. Look sharp," he announced with a monotone voice. Letting us off the bus, we see a large orange dome, with the words USJ placed above a metal door to go into the facility. My guts are screaming at me now, telling me something is wrong here. As we walk in, no one else seems to notice. Izawa starts speaking, introducing another hero, 13, he believes, but stopped paying attention as soon as he entered, instead playing in favor to keep alert as 13 gave of their speech about quirks and how to rescue with them. As they finished the speech, a pitch-black void with dark purple outlining it appeared in the center of the USJ. This isn't part of training. Izawa too notices the void, pulling on his goggles, gripping his capture gear tightly, then turns to us, "Everyone evacuate now," he demanded, 13 jumping into action by herding the rest of the students to the door. I press I button on my wrist, causing my suit to change its color. White turned into black, green turned into red, and the flames on my wrist turned crimson. No longer was I Izuku Midoriya, but the vigilante Crimson Blaze. I pulled out a mask that had been inside my suit and put it on, as I see everyone being intercepted by the purple smog. Analyzing the person, I realize his quirk is some form of teleportation or warping but must have a physical body as an anchor for the warping, as not to randomly warp to another location. Reaching with my telekinesis, I find something solid on its neck, the anchor probably, so I yank it towards me. Yellow eyes widen as the whole body is pulled to me, before crushing the thing to the floor, shouting, "Everyone go!" No. With that, everyone left but distracted me enough for the warp villain to get away and back to the other main one. Handface is shouting about cheating and how he will kill All Might, but he's not here. It's made creepier with the way he scratches his scared neck, that's already bleeding from previous scratching probably. Shuddering, I make my way to Eraserhead to help him, forming a crimson blade from fire as I make a path to him. These aren't trained, mere thugs and easy to beat, so I had relative ease in reaching Eraser, his eyes severely bloodshot, breathing heavily from fighting a crowd of villains as he looked to me, shouting, "Crimson Blaze. Midoriya." Dimin he caught on fast, the suit maybe. Oh well, I continue to back up Eraser as we both decimate the thugs, until it's just Purple Smog, Handjob and Birdman. Handjob speaks up, "So cool. So cool. Both Crimson Blaze and Eraserhead. But where is All Might? I want to kill him and tear society apart." His BLD red eyes gleaming with malevolently. Childish is the first word that came to mind. A child wishing for something, and tantrums when he cannot have it. No matter. Blaze, Eraser, meet Nomu. Genetically modified to kill All Might. Whatever the thing was before, it isn't human now, with its brain on show to the world and dull, unfocused eyes. Until they became focused as Handjob spoke one word, kill. With inhuman speed it took off towards us, barely dodging its clawed fist. I stab my sword through its abdomen, but it heals quickly. Regeneration, super strength and speed. It has more than one quirk, like me. All regeneration quirks have a weakness, however. Cells cannot regenerate if they are destroyed at over 4,000 degrees Celsius. Using my blade, I heat it up to the temperature that is recorded to be the same as the surface of the sun, and as it did, visible heat radiated off it, and I spoke up, "It has regeneration. That means carbonized cells won't be able to regenerate at all." Swinging my blade at the beast's abdomen once again, it slices through like butter, and this time doesn't regenerate. Rage-filled scream filled USJ as Handjob shouted that I shouldn't have been able to kill Nomu. As they leave, I can hear them shout at each other using their names, Kurogyri and Tamura Shigaraki, leading the new League of Villains. Aizawa comes up to me, "Crimson Blaze, or should I say Izuku Midoriya?" Caught red-handed. Tapping my wrist once again, my suit transforms back into the original colors. "You have a lot of explaining to do, problem child." He sounds like a parent who caught their child with their hand in the cookie jar. "What gave me away, Moth?" Eraser's face morphed into one of displeasure, the obvious curly green hair. He responds, eyeing me suspiciously, "Left that little detail out, didn't you, Midoriya?" Innocently, I shrug, both of us rounding up the knocked-out thugs around us before we turn our heads to look at the door as it announces, "Have no fear." "Why?" "Because I am here." All Might projected into the USA, his blue eyes critically scanning the area for villains, only to see Eraser and I cleaning up the center where the crowd was warped in at the beginning. Not long after rounding up the rest of the thugs, both of us are sent to the infirmary to be checked for wounds or injuries. Recovery Girl might not be happy, especially with the way Eraser is limping yet refusing to be helped. Stubborn till the end. We soon reach the infirmary, Recovery Girl waiting inside with a harsh look. Who knew a woman so small can be that scary? One small forehead kiss later, and my remaining energy sapped, I lay on the uncomfortable bed, waiting for my energy to refill enough for me to walk and get home. Waiting is boring, so I fall asleep to regain energy and ward of tiredness. Whilst waiting for Problem Child to awake, Shoyuta got to work. This is what Midoriya meant when he was helping. He was literally helping people by becoming a vigilante. This whole fiasco is going to give me so much paperwork, and Shoyuta can already feel the headache forming at the back of his mind. What he needs is a coffee and a manual. About being a parent. God knows he doesn't do children well. The old 2A would agree if they were still here to argue. Midoriya needs to be a child for once. If he was a vigilante at night, and at school during the day, when did he have time to live as a normal child? But then a normal child doesn't have to work and pay for food or live with a scar given from hateful parents. Tashinori before the USJ was having a cup of tea with Nizu as the creature gave him a lesson on teacher classes and would have remained there until the end of the day, until young Ida burst through the door, telling Tashinori and Nizu about an attack at the USJ, and how Midoriya was left there to defend his class with Aizawa. Randomly, Nizu pulled out a speaker and told all staff to get to the USJ and that there has been an attack. When young Ida had left, Tashinori transformed into All Might and blitzed to the USJ, in hopes to prevent any injuries to a college and student. But when he arrives, what he saw shook him. Both young Midoriya and Aizawa had beaten and restrained a huge crowd, or a small army by themselves and casually arguing with one another. An odd sight indeed. Police soon arrived with the rest of the staff, arresting the thugs whilst getting a statement from both Aizawa and Midoriya about what had happened. Tashinori and Tsukachi looked at the one casualty of the incident, a beast with multiple quirks, modified to beat All Might specifically. Naomasa sipped at the coffee from his cup, looking at the report on the invasion of the USJ. Details not adding up right and conflicting truths paint an unclear picture for him. Putting it aside for now, he took up his side case. Izuku Midoriya is a mystery. His previous schools were easy to crack. They squealed like pigs once they learned his quirk, admitting to the fact that all the students and some staff had indeed bullied Midoriya, bordering abuse on the poor boy. His home life is a bit messy. Some cameras in the apartment catch the boy leaving at random times in the night and coming back later doing what is anyone's guess. A mystery indeed, as was his parents. They vanished of the face of the earth almost 11 years ago, possibly after abandoning Midoriya, leaving no trace of where they had gone, erased from society. He needed more coffee. I wake up slowly, a hand on my shoulder steadying me, Aizawa's eyes looking at me critically as he asks me, "Midoriya, I wanted to ask you if you would like to be adopted by me." With that sentence, the world fades to black. The last thing I see is my new guardian, with a worried look on his face as I collapse to the ground. I didn't have time to answer him. Boop. I am here with another chapter. For those who don't know, this fanfic can be found over at Archive of Our Own under the same name. I will be adding chapters on here daily until I have caught up to the FIC. Enjoy. Shoyuta watched over his newly adopted son. His son. He never thought ever in his life he would have a son, or even a husband until Hisashi crashed into his life during his second year of U. But here he is now, a husband and now a son. He watched his son sleep soundly in the infirmary, after being thoroughly scolded by Chiyo for startling the poor boy as soon as he had woken up, with paperwork to complete to put the whole USJ incident behind them in front of him, but Shoyuta had no energy in completing the sheets, more content in watching over his problem child like an eagle. It shouldn't be too long now until Izuku wakes up. He had only fainted from shock according to Chiyo, and Shoyuta couldn't wait for it as the boy was now part of the Aizawa Yamada family now. He can choose to take the surname or leave his own surname. Izuku Aizawa Yamada. That has a nice ring to it, Shoyuta thinks, stepping into his neon yellow sleeping bag to get a juice pack. Meanwhile, in a dark rundown bar, a silver-haired man smashed and disintegrated everything he touched in a childish tantrum as he shouted, "That dim NPC. He ruined everything." He snarled, turning another glass to dust, much to the chagrin of the mist man looking after the bar. Who the hell does he think he is? Destroying our enemy like that. I'll kill him. Turn him to ash. He breathed heavily as he felt his lips become cracked and dry from overuse of his quirk, feeling BLD start leaking from the cracks. Finished, the man sat down as another spoke up. "Tamura Shigaraki, calm yourself, we will have another chance to crush All Might as you said." A deep, gravelly voice came from the black screen that said audio only as it spoke again. "Your chance will come. You are my successor, you will be the new leader of the league. Come now, tell me of the one who defeated Nomu." The voice from the screen radiated authority and power. Shigaraki replied, "That old vigilante, the one that vanished, Crimson Blaze, he was there with eraser head, both decimated the cannon fodder. Then Blaze cut down Nomu with a blade of fire, saying something like, "All regeneration quirks have a weakness, cells that are carbonized don't regenerate," as he sliced the Nomu down. A hum of interest came from the screen. He knew all the Nomus he made had weaknesses. No matter what he did, there will always be a weakness. As a wise scientist once said, "For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. The universe balances itself, no one can stop that." He just had to keep the balance in his favor, not the heroes or the other villain organizations, only his. Over in Japan, another group of villains gather, the Scarlet Wyverns, led by their leader, Red Vermilion, and his wife Heartbreak. Ruthless and cold-blooded, the clan they lead rule with fear. No one dared go against them lest they lose their hearts or have their skin charred black. Both leaders stand in the war room, all occupants looking expectantly at their leaders, as Vermilion rough voice breaks through the silence. "How goes the expansion to Mizudafu? Our influence must spread in order to gain control over the underworld. We will be the leading organization of villains, and we will tear Japan apart." Cheers echo the room, the goal clear, but one bold general asks, "What about your heir? Have you gained one?" No one dared respond, clear animosity radiating from Heartbreak, who pulls the general towards her. "You dare." The audacity to ask, "We will have an heir to the clan, one of great power." She finishes by pulling the general's heart from his chest still beating and crushes it in cold blood as the general's body collapses onto the table, their blood spilling all over it. Clearing her throat, she tells the rest, "Never speak of an heir, there will be one, I promise you that." Before storming out of the room, Heartbreak goes to her training room from the war room, rage filling her veins at the thought of her son. The abomination had no quirk, he was useless to the clan, too kind and with no powers. She will have no weak heirs to take over the clan. They need a strong leader, not a weak, useless one that will destroy everything that she and her husband had created. Once inside her training room, she grabs 2 daggers, her favored weapon, and starts slashing at the training dolls, throwing them 2 at targets, manipulating their direction with her quirk, making sure to hit the vital areas. She is the best assassin in the clan. Many villain leaders fell to her blades, and heroes having their hearts ripped out as trophies. If the payment is good, then she is sent to deal with it and does it with the finesse of a dancer and the deadliness of a viper. Her mind fills with memories of her disgraceful son. He's disgusting and vile for being quirkless, her daggers twirling around striking the dummies, white-hot fury fueling her longing to wipe out the disgrace, to clean slate and have a worthy heir, but she cannot without a contract. Assassins bound by a code which she cannot break, even if she wants to so bad, but the quirk placed upon her brings her great pain if the pact is broken. Red Vermilion is no better. He despises his failure of a son. Those things should not exist anymore. They are a dying breed and must be exterminated. He breathes out through his nose, fire leaking from his nostrils due to his quirk flaring with his whirlwind of emotions. He built the clan from dirt and dust, into an empire with him as the leader, making everyone fear their clan, the family that is his clan, and now needs an heir to lead after he retires, an heir that can bring the clan great fortune and raise it into an empire to rule. Releasing his quirk, flames pour out of his mouth like a river, flooding into his training room, and charring a cleaning servant, as they scream in agony from their skin being burned off with the smell of seared flesh filling the room. Once he ran the course of his quirk, he ordered another to get rid of the body. They aren't important anyway. Vermilion is knocked out of his thoughts by his phone vibrating in his pocket. Who is calling? He wondered as he fished his phone from his pocket, the screen saying no caller ID, maybe one of his sergeants. Answering, he placed the phone next to his ear, speaking, "Hello, you've reached Red Vermilion. What is it you are ringing me for?" His voice distant, businesslike. On the other end, the voice of a woman responds, "I am Violet, leader of the Poison Lilies. I want to tell you to get out of my territory. Mizudafu is mine." Before Vermilion can rebut the claim, the connection dies. He had a war to win, to destroy the Poison Lilies then take their territories. It won't take long. The Scarlet Wyverns had more manpower and skilled men than any villain organizations. He had spies in many of the other villain organizations that pose a slight threat to him, the biggest being the League, but he knows they cannot win. no matter of the abominations they have in their ranks. He calls his wife, a new contract for her, a leader to kill, BLD to spill. Hello Heartbreak, I have a contract for you, Violet of the Poison Lilies. Eliminate her. After a few minutes, he hears his door slid open, revealing Heartbreak or his wife. They share a passionate kiss. Then Heartbreak asks, eliminate her. This will be fun. She says innocently or as innocently a star assassin can be. Leaving the base, or what they call the nest, Heartbreak travels for Poison Lily's main base to assassinate the leader. Her motorbike roars to life, revving up and speeding to the enemy's base. Poison Lily's base is nice, a large warehouse, fortified with guards and barred windows, but nothing compared to the nest. She easily breaks in, the security is a mess, and makes her way to where Violet sleeps. Picklocking the door, it creaks open and reveals a dimly lit room, and Violet sat in front of her desk, on the phone to someone apparently, and the call isn't going well from what she can tell from the frantic shouting Violet is doing. Heartbreak unsheathes her daggers which she had sharpened beforehand, and slowly creeped to the villain leader, who is unsuspecting an assassination on her, knives glinting sadistically in the light. By the end of the call, Violet still hadn't noticed Heartbreak, and it is her undoing as Heartbreak wraps the knife in front of Violet's throat before slashing, dyeing the blade crimson. Simple. With the assassination over, Heartbreak left. The Poison Lilies will collapse soon due to the lack of a leader and the oppressing force of the Scarlet Wyverns crushing them. She returned to the nest with ease and admired it. She can never get over the view of the nest. The nest itself is a compound, the main building a large mansion, with 3 stories. Heavily fortified and guarded, with security rivaling that of Tartarus prison. Barred windows, and the windows themselves bulletproof, a quirk nullifying field surrounding the compound, only allowing those granted with a card which stops the field from affecting them can use their quirks. Next to the mansion is the barracks where some of the less fortunate of the footmen that the Scarlet Wyverns employ can sleep and train. Across from the barracks is the workshop where most of the equipment the clan uses is made, with equipment that is state-of-the-art. Around the entire compound is a wall made of concrete and reinforced with steel in the middle. Appealing, in Heartbreak's opinion. Impregnable by opposing forces, and sits on a hill, so they had the high ground, meaning any battle is over before it begins. As she approaches the gate, she pulls out her ID to open the gates themselves. She passes through, nodding to the guards as she passed, parking in the mansion's garage. Maybe she can watch the a sports festival, to see if the next generation posse's a threat to their organization or a potential heir to lead the Scarlet Wyverns. A fleeting thought enters her mind. What if she forced her son to develop a quirk? Jolting, she holds the idea close to her chest. It is rare, but under extreme amounts of pain and stress, a quirkless person can develop a quirk. If she forces her son to develop one, then maybe he can lead the clan after his parents. A sinister smile rips across her face. He will be more powerful than both her and his father, able to crush any foe under his heel, she thinks, imagining a cruel, sinister Izuku burning the world. If she could sway him to her side. As Heartbreak thinks of the future, Izuku wakes up with a cold chill running down his spine, shivering at the feeling. It is dark, evil, and he didn't like it. He glances to his right, seeing Aizawa sleeping soundly in his sleeping bag, slouching over the papers spread across the desk. Amusingly, he had a small amount of drool coming from the corner of his mouth and dripping onto the paper, staining it. Until Izuku read what the paper is about, adoption forms. Oh God, he was being serious. The moth wants to adopt him. He could feel the BLD rushing into his face, his ears roaring, eyes widening, heart pounding out of his chest. He could finally have a family again, feel love again. He misses it so much. Izuku didn't even notice the stray tear that rolled sadly down his cheek, until a rough, sandpaper-like hand wiped it away, his eyes focused on it, only to see a wide-awake Aizawa wiping the tear away with his hand. More fell down his face, looking at Aizawa, who looked at him with panic, until he realized that the tears were happy tears and pulled Izuku into a hug, a warm and kind hug, breaking him down more. Aizawa decided to break the sob-filled silence. Welcome back to the land of the living problem child, he said with a smile gracing his face. Izuku, unable to stop himself, I'm your problem child now, moth. Izuku retorted. Aizawa snorted. Call me Shoyuta now, or dad, or whatever you want. Izuku. Shoyuta told, causing even more tears to spill. Where did he keep them all? A question for the ages. Seconds later, the door burst open, revealing a casually dressed present Mike, shouting, "You're awake, little listener." He shouted until Shoyuta activated his quirk, getting a giggle out of Izuku, before Mike continued, "Call me Hizashi or Yamada or Papa if you want. I'm Shuta's loving husband. And the one who told him to adopt you." A small blush found its way onto Shuta's face, being called out so easily, and the wide, surprised eyes of Izuku didn't help as he asked, "You're married?" To present Mike. Well, that's not what I was expecting, to be honest. Izuku shouted/exclaimed at the married pair, then realized, oh god. I'm going to be living with two pro heroes. My heart can't take this. Clasping his heart dramatically, Shoyuta face-palmed as Hizashi beamed a smile, another drama queen, and it's going to get worse from here, with this pair. Sighing, Shoyuta, resigned to his fate, said, right. That's enough, we're going pack up. Blunt, irritated, grumpy Shoyuta is back. We're going home. Izuku has a home now. A family. Not just a house with only him, but a home with his family. No one saw the happy tears in the corner of his eyes as Izuku hopped into Shuta's car, ready to go home and enjoy this new chapter of his life. And for once, he didn't notice the electric blue eyes watching him with interest, or the other students watching him leave with his new family out of the gates of U. Izuku wasn't thinking about what may happen tomorrow. All he could think about is what is going to happen tonight, what he's going to do with his family. Grasping his chest, hand over his heart, he felt the fire of love placed in there once again, after being extinguished so long ago. Izuku can remember the exact moment he met Shoyuta. It was at the beginning of his vigilante career. It was a foggy winter night, a young 9-year-old Izuku patrolling a bad neighborhood by himself in his self-made costume. It wasn't the best, mind you. Being 9 years old meant he couldn't actually make a proper costume, so he wore a simple black hoodie with a badly stitched-on red fire that sat in the center of his back, baggy parkour breathes, his roughed-up red shoes, and a crimson mask to cover his face. He had gotten his quirk a year prior, but refused to use his parents' quirks, so he was functionally quirkless, but he had faith in his training, and he wanted to help. But he knew most who suffer from crime in this area have no heroes to give them hope, security, and peace, as the heroes hunt in the major cities to boost their popularity and egos with money on the side. They are barely any real heroes now, those who want to help, and the media make it seem that those fakes with licenses are heroes, when really, they are glorified celebrities that are paid to take down villains. And that's how Izuku found himself in front of a dark alley, where he found two men, one with a knife and the other cowering against the wall of the alleyway. Izuku hesitated. He had trained, but doubted he could do what he trained, until he noticed the silver glint of the knife in the dulled-out light of the moon. Without thinking, he ran towards the two men, before roundhouse kicking the one with the knife in the chest. The man with the knife was knocked out instantly. A resounding crack could be heard in the alley. He may have broken some ribs with that blow, but whatever, and turned to the other. The other man was shell-shocked. He was being mugged 1 second, then another. The mugger was sprawled on the floor out cold. Izuku offered his hand to help the man, who graciously took it and thanked him profusely for helping him. He found some sturdy rope in the alley and tied up the criminal with it, proceeding to call the police, then vanishing, leaving a tied-up criminal and a very confused man. Izuku was perched on the roof watching them both for a time just in case the criminal escaped, but he didn't, and the police had arrived to collect both men. Knowing that the man was safe, he left to continue his job, the area well saturated with crime, to stop. For the rest of the night Izuku stopped crime. They weren't pretty, definitely not a sight for someone so young, but he soldiers through. Better get used to it now, was what Izuku was thinking. It was about his third mugging when he felt an unknown gaze cast upon him, his hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. This stalker was different from the petty thugs he had beaten during the night. That moment will never leave Izuku. Upon a roof, a man was perched, gray scarf and goggles, looking at him with piercing red eyes. Danger. His body shuddered at the man. He was scary. Izuku could barely see him in the night, but he could see black hair and a very rugged beard, if you can call it that. But what finally made him recognizable was the floating hair. This man is Eraserhead. A rather new underground hero, not much known about him or his quirk, but his eyes and hair gave him away. Suddenly, the scarf the hero was wearing floated up, defying gravity, until it rocketed towards Izuku, who had little time to dodge, but he managed to leap to the left, avoiding the gray scarf, but didn't dodge the light kick to his knee. Pain shot through his right leg. That's harsh Eraser, but Izuku stood back up, wincing at his leg, trying to limp away from the hero, and to distract him, Izuku announces, "Look, the villain is getting away." That cost Eraserhead as the man looked back to the spot where the mugger was, only to see them knocked out, and a missing vigilante when he looked back. DMN, that was close, Izuku thinks as he sits on a roof away from the underground hero, nursing his tender right leg from that kick from Eraser. Interested, Izuku tried to shadow Eraser, but failed sadly. The man had too much experience and knew he was being followed and made it his mission to lose the new addition. It wasn't a week later until Izuku encountered Eraserhead again. This time the hero saved his bacon as he found a situation a little too much for the young vigilante to handle, and probably would have died if not for Eraser. It was a drag deal gone wrong, and Izuku was caught in the middle, shot in the left shoulder, blood pouring from the wound like a river. He was practically defenseless, but Eraser hopped into the fight, subduing the two gangs, before walking over to the vigilante, who had collapsed to the ground, bleeding onto it. Eraser quickly patched him up using a small first aid kit he kept on his belt, stopping the blood flow and cleaning the wound. With a clear mind, the vigilante realized two things. One, that he was in debt to Eraser, and two was that he needed to escape. Using the Erasure hero's momentary distraction, he bolted, his legs carrying him far enough away from the hero. After those first two encounters, both vigilante and hero kept tabs on one another. Eraser gave Izuku Detective Tsukachi's number so that he can text the detective about criminals he captured, whilst Izuku demanded Eraser's number from the detective, who relented after countless texts spamming the detective's phone. Nighttime patrols were better with Eraser watching his back, as both bantered with each other, mostly one-sided from Izuku, whilst Eraser tried he wasn't really trying to capture him. After several months, Izuku gained a reputation and the media caught on about a new and powerful vigilante roaming at night. Crimson Blaze is what the media called him, and now had many heroes after him due to his popularity in the media, street cameras capturing his movements for the media to show on the news. Izuku would never admit it, but he saw Eraser as someone he can trust, and that was a thing no other hero had gained, not even All Might. Eraser saved him and gave him tips on fighting, not properly training him, but making sure he knew how not to die. Most of all, Izuku respected Eraser. He was Izuku's hero. Shaking his head, he notices that the car had stopped outside of a nice, out-of-the-way apartment. It wasn't the kind of place he expected Shoyuta to live in, but he surprised him to say the least. The Yamada-Izawa residence is on the second floor of the apartment complex, which is an amazing contrast to his former dingy apartment. His old one felt cold, desolate and isolated, whereas this one feels like home. It's warm with nice neighbors and he instantly loved it. All three males step out of the car, walking towards their apartment, his family's apartment, his new home. Izuku is practically skipping to his new home. He couldn't wait but reining in his excitement as he bounced behind his new parents. He is far from calling them Dad and Papa, but he knows he will. In his new home, they awed at the sight. He couldn't help but whisper, "It's amazing," softly rolling out of his mouth as he studied the living room. In the living room is a fluffy gray and black couch in front of a sleek glass coffee table. A large plasma HD TV sat on the wall, just above a small electric fireplace which held pictures of the couple, one of their marriage and first date among others. In the corner, a large cat tower sat, with one old-looking Norwegian forest cat with 12 kittens of the same breed crowding around it perched on top of said tower. The older cat notices Izuku, her eyes gleaming with interest at the newcomer as she hops down from the tower, casually walking up to Izuku, rubbing her head against his leg, purring contently. Shoyuta comes up behind him, giving the cat an ear scratch, telling him, "Her name is Akuma. She doesn't really like Hizashi and I, but likes you apparently." Izuku smugly smirked at him. He got his cat's affection before him. He glars half-heartedly, pointing towards each kitten. You also got Yumi, Norio, Machi, Echo, Poppy, Yui, Zoom, Daiki, Rio, Kitten, Pacent Mike, and Pumpkin. Izuku facepalms when Shoyuta calls out Pacent Mike's name, giving the man a deadpan stare, and Shoyuta answers with an amused smile. The kitchen is nothing too special, filled with food to be cooked and the correct cooking utensils. Izuku can't help but giggle at the Hizashi's forbidden area sign that hangs just as you enter the kitchen. Hizashi can't cook, is what Shoyuta mutters, as Izuku leaves the kitchen and heads towards the bedrooms, his bedroom. A short hallway leads to 4 doors, one being the toilet, the rest being bedrooms. He saw on one of the doors it said, Hizashi's and Shuta's room, so he assumed that this room was his guardian's room, so he had a choice of 2 rooms. He picked the room that is opposite to the bathroom and looks in. Izuku's room is bare, only containing a bed with a bedstand next to it with the rest of the room being a dull gray. He couldn't wait to decorate. After looking, he hears a knock at the room as Shoyuta pops his head into the room, telling him, Hey Izuku, if you want, we could go and get some stuff for your room. If you want, of course. Shoyuta lead off, but Izuku didn't mind. He nodded excitedly at the man, who laughed at the giddy boy in front of him. This side of Izuku is a side Shoyuta has never seen before, but it is welcome to see. It wasn't long before the family arrived at IKEA to get what Izuku wanted to decorate his room. First, he got a warm, comfortable bed. God knows he needs one. The previous one was old, creaky and falling to pieces, so a new one is good. Second, he got paint to paint those dreary walls, and hero posters to fill those walls, mostly Present Mike and very few Eraserhead posters. Izuku also got a desk with a chair, green fairy lights to hang up, a soft rug, a mirror and some dressers for the new clothes that he is bound to get if the look in Hizashi's eye is anything to go by. By now, Izuku had gotten all the decor he needs for his room, so Shoyuta offers to take them back home. Izuku is about to join him till Hizashi grabs him and drags him into a mall, while screaming, You need new clothes, Izuku. Resigned to his fate, Izuku lets himself get dragged by Hizashi into the mall for clothes. He tried on some ripped jeans that Hizashi tossed at him, telling him that they'll look good on me, buying the ones that looked good and fit nicely on me. That was 4 pairs of jeans. He got some underwear and socks, enough to last for a while. He got some hoodies, joggers, jumpers, t-shirts, shoes and more, all under Hizashi's careful eye of fashion. He had multiple bags of clothes at the end of the shopping spree, and Izuku got to learn more about Hizashi, like he is partially deaf, so wears hearing aids and knows sign language. He's also colorblind, which is why he wears those glasses. Overall, the trip is a success, and at the end, Izuku can't help but feel close to his parents. They may not be related by BLD, but by heart they are family. Once they get home, Izuku heads to his room to decorate and make it his own. For hours later, Izuku emerges from his room with splatters of paint all over him and looks tired yet happy. With a small, tired wave, Izuku says, Come look. In a hushed voice, clearly not used to speaking, but he's getting there. As both Hizashi and Shoyuta enter Izuku's room, they are astounded by how amazing it looks. The gray walls are covered in white, then the white has carefully splattered of paint on it in all the colors of the rainbow. The bed had been set up, with a metal frame and a cloud-like mattress, and an emerald green quilt. To the left of the bed, against the wall was the desk and chair for whatever Izuku does on his laptop, and surrounding the desk on the wall are all the posters he bought. Some of heroes like All Might and Present Mike, some of his favorite TV shows like The Witcher and Voltron, childlike yet suits him perfectly. The ceiling holds up, the green fairy lights up, crossing it in a zigzag pattern. Astonished, Shoyuta says, Izuku, this is amazing. I'm proud, problem child. You went plus ultra. With little enthusiasm, but his eyes show how proud he is of his son, Hizashi just nods distractedly, admiring the room. Izuku squeaks, a red blush spreads across his face at the praise, leaning into Shuta's hand, which hand made its way to his head, giving him a head pat. The 3 then went into the living room bouncing with excitement as they gathered on the couch to watch a movie. They argue but eventually decided on Mulan. Halfway through, Izuku dozed off, leaning on Shuta's shoulder. Not long after Shoyuta followed and then Hizashi. The family all curl together with the cats, sleeping peacefully, blissfully unaware of what will happen tomorrow. Soft is the first thought that bounces into Izuku's mind as he wakes up. Immediately panicking, the bed at his house is old and rough, like sleeping on a rock, before recognizing his new room and begins to calm his erratic heartbeat. For once in an ungodly amount of time, Izuku feels well rested and not tired beyond belief, stretching out much like a kitten after a nap. Removing his fluffy quilt, he quickly changes into his uniform and bounces to the kitchen, only to be met with the sight of Shoyuta sleeping with his head on the table, the cats crawling all over him. Izuku taps Shuta's shoulder lightly so that he can wake up to get to school on time. He merely grunts and looks at him with a deadpan glare, and Izuku just shrugged innocently at the man, moving around him to get some water and toast. With a slice of toast hanging in his mouth, he rushes out the door and jogs to you, taking large bits of his toast as he jogs lightly up the streets leading to you. And with one last bit he finishes his toast before he continued jogging, or he would have, if he did not bump into someone. Said someone was no other than Shudo. Todoroki hadn't had the best morning. He was rudely awakened from his slumber by the burning trash that his father, demanding that he gets up for his training today. An hour passed, and Shudo emerged from the training room burnt and bruised from his training, torture limping towards a first aid kit to patch himself up, a vital skill most of the people living in the Todoroki household learn at an early age, wrapping his wounds with bandages and putting burn cream on his, well, burns. After his training fiasco, he leaves his house, not home. That place isn't home, not for Shudo anyway, and begins to make his way to you. He can't help but think of the green-haired boy from the bus to the USJ the other day. Shudo's mind focuses on the way the boy spoke of his father, the animosity that oozed from his eyes, his body tense and shaking with anger, and Shudo can't help but agree, and he made some amazing points about Endeavor being a villain more than a hero. He's snapped out of his musing by the very one he was thinking about. Izuku straightens his back to look at Todoroki, before offering his hand to shake, then stopping mid-gesture at the look in Todoroki's eyes. They are the same as the ones he had when he developed his quirk. Disgust, hatred, and pain all pass through his eyes, a cold glare on an impassive mask to hide the sweltering emotions bubbling below. Izuku should know, he felt the same, and the way Todoroki carries himself all scream that something is terribly wrong. Plastering on a smile, Izuku introduces himself. Hello, oh, you must be Todoroki. Politely bowing at the end, then straightening back out, observing Todoroki closely. His heterochromia, his chiseled jawline, his toned body. Shaking his head, Izuku blushes madly at his thoughts. He can't help himself in front of hot boys like Todoroki, all making him feel warm inside. Todoroki replied, "Yes. I am Shudo Todoroki. You must be Izuku Midoriya. The pleasure." Shudo means it. He subtly looked at Midoriya, gazing at his feature. A godlike body, a scar on his right side, his 6 feet 1 inch height. The boy had caught his eyes when he first entered the classroom, a mystery to be sure, and the scars that litter his body make him even more so. That look in those emerald eyes catch him off guard. It wasn't pity, admiration, or respect. It was understanding, like he knew what had happened to Shudo. Maybe he too had been abused. That would explain the scar maybe. Then the nagging voice of Endeavor echoes in his mind. You aren't there to make friends, and he tries to block it out, but it gets louder and louder, so he shuts down, making his face impassive and cold to the world. Awkward silence fills the air. Neither boy speaking, one casting the other a cold stare, the other looking away embarrassed with his staring. Todoroki coughs into his fist, telling Izuku, "If we don't leave now, we will be late." In a monotone voice, unwavering and bitter, as if he had shut down from the world. Izuku knew that all too well, happened every time he though of his Biardish parents when he was younger. Now he could control it with time and healing, of course, but he bets Todoroki has neither, and he had to deal with this alone, but not anymore if Izuku can help it. After all, no true hero would leave someone who needs help. As Izuku walks to you, he feels Todoroki looking at him, not in the Bakugo used to look at me, more like he was checking me out. Shudo couldn't take his eyes off Midoriya. He was walking in front of him, meaning Shudo had the best view of his butt, which popped out in those trousers. What a way to start the day at you. Speaking of you. They arrive not long after, walking through the gates with their IDs out in silence, and Shudo was still walking behind Midoriya, just to keep looking at his butt, which bounced as he walked, by the way. Not long after entering, Izuku finds himself sat in the classroom, waiting for Shoyuda, or Aizawa in school to show up, and speak of the devil and he shall appear as the sayings go. Shoyuda strolls into the classroom about 5 minutes late, clearing his throat, he spoke, "I have an announcement. The fight is not over from the USJ. In 2 weeks I will hold the sports festival. Train hard." Before he collapsed into his sleeping bag, probably sleeping but no one knows. Silence devolved into chaos at the announcement. The sports festival at U is major. It is basically a replacement for the Olympics that happened so long ago. With homeroom over, we head to lessons, the halls buzzing with activity with the sports festival up and coming. At lunch, Ida, Uraraka and I sit down at a table to discuss the festival, Uraraka becoming more intense as she says she'll win, punching the air with confidence. Lunch ends and lessons continue onwards, maths, English, science, quirk history, all that jazz, and with the spirits high with anticipation, no one could keep their jitters in. As we prepare to leave last PRD to go home, Izuku and the rest of his class come face to face with some of the other classes in the first year. They all look at Class A with jealousy and envy, then all part like the Red Sea as a boy with gravity-defying hair steps forward. This is the mighty heroics course. Not much really. His eye bags near black with sleep deprivation, his voice filled with bitterness and resentment. "I am here to declare war on the heroics department." Then strutted off like a cat, an insomniac-ridden cat. Bakugo was making the entire situation worse by shouting at everyone, calling them weak and worthless, such a Bakugo thing to do. Izuku shakes his head, unnecessary really, he thinks, the other will be our allies when we go pro. Calling them worthless guarantees that you will be left. The other classes shout after Bakugo's raving and purple-hair kid's declaration of war. Well then, go beyond. As Dad so lovingly puts it, declarations of war aside, Izuku leaves you. To train. He has 2 weeks until the sport festival, and he needs to be in tip-top shape for it. School had been put on hold to give students a time to prepare for the festival. He needs to clear his head and be focused on becoming better. He needs his upgrade himself. Focusing solely on training, he misses the blonde in front of him as he mutters incomprehensible plans as a dark aura surround him, thinking HRD on his plans for the 2-week break. He needs to rise to the top, show the world his light, his hope, and the sport festival is the best way to start that. His muttering is halted when he crashes into someone again, this time though it's that lanky blonde skeleton that was watching him when he was cleaning Dagoba Beach. Izuku eyes widen, the man offers a kind smile, holding out his hand of a handshake as he introduces himself. "Hello there, young." He breaks off, and Izuku mutters, "Midoriya," under his breath, and Blondie continues, "Well then. Hello there, young Midoriya. It is nice to finally speak to you. My name is Toshinori Yagi, personal assistant to All Might." He iterated, throwing his arms out to the side of him. Izuku's mouth gapes. This gangly man was All Might's assistant. Had he known that, he would have actually spoken to the man instead of running away. Izuku was always one to believe in the stranger danger. Izuku shakes both his head and the man's hand, snapping out of his mind and looking into Yagi's eyes, which seemed to glow electric blue, and Izuku swears he knows those eyes from somewhere but he can't place his thought on it. He notices that the man slumps down on his left side, like he's missing his left side, and how he has a little BLD seeping from his mouth. How odd. Toshinori wasn't planning on bumping into young Midoriya, but he had whilst said boy was muttering a storm, something about the sports festival. There is something about the boy that Toshinori can't place. He feels a sort of pull that no one else has, not attraction, gods no, but a sort of bond that he feels with the boy. He also feels very protective of the boy ever since the chat with Naomasa. He had seen the dark side of the world yet still wants to be a hero, and that's admirable. After the whole USJ incident, Toshinori had decided to make the boy the successor of One for All, and hopefully he accepts the request to carry the torch and finish what all holders of One for All started. One for All also acted weird around young Midoriya. It tugs, pulls, and attracts towards him when he gets close to him. Even now when young Midoriya bumped into him, he felt one for all jump up, almost causing Toshinori to burst into his muscled form. It's like one for all is telling Toshinori to pass it on to young Midoriya. He could feel BLD push up into his throat, the strain of one for all on his body taking its toll like wildfire, uncontrolled and too powerful. Toshinori sees young Midoriya eyeing him critically, so he talks, "Yes, I am All Might's assistant, and he wanted me to speak to you for a while. When I told him about you cleaning that beach, he took an interest. So he sent me to give you an offer for me to train you in his place. I am certified to train people, just so you know." Izuku is torn in between believing the man and not believing him. A lifetime of trust issues don't disappear in one night after all. However, the man seems genuine and calm, and the man appears familiar in an odd way, like a dream you just can't remember. Electric blue eyes bore into Izuku's with a knowing look, as the giant man said, "My boy, you can trust me, if not look at this." As he pulled out his wallet, with it a card saying Toshinori Yagi, All Might's assistant. Izuku puts up one finger as he retrieves his phone from his pocket, texting Shoyuta about one Mr. Yagi, who responds with how I know him and yes, he is trustworthy. The texts go back and forth with Shoyuta worrying about him and finds it endearing to finally have someone to dote on him. Eventually, both say their goodbyes, and Izuku returns to the living world to see Yagi stood in front of him with his hands in his pockets, whistling suspiciously, until he and Yagi start to talk about the training that Izuku will do. Izuku had a thick binder detailing his training regime, all from food to eat to his sleep schedule. Now it's time to go plus ultra. And Izuku did just that. Spanning over the next 2 weeks leading up to the sports festival, Izuku trained with gusto to prepare him for the battles ahead. He actually had a gym pass too thanks to Shoyuta, so training was much easier than before with proper equipment instead of scrap metal. Mr. Yagi also helped with training, giving Izuku advice on how to train both his body and his quirk. Yagi would also vanish into thin air sometimes, then return a few minutes later, breathing heavily with BLD coming out of his mouth. Izuku had questioned his mentor, but Yagi just waved it off, deflecting the topic elsewhere. In another city, Tamura Shigaraki sat at a bar with 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐸𝐸 discussing upcoming plans until a voice-only screen crackled to life. "Tamura, I believe you should watch the sports festival. It would be in your best interest to scout out your future adversaries and their weaknesses," spoke the cold, commanding voice from the screen before it snapped off again. Tamura grabs the remote from 𝐒𝐮𝐸𝐸, who had handed it to him, and suches on the TV hanging on the wall. He wished he could crash the festival, however that would be suicidal with the beefed-up security there, so he would watch in the safe of his base. Waiting for the show to begin, he mutters, "I will end this cursed society," then throwing a knife at a torn-up poster of All Might. In a waiting room, most of Class A stood nervous. Today is the sports festival and all had been training hard for it. As Izuku finished getting ready, he heard footsteps from the door, which promptly thudded open, revealing Todoroki in all his cold glory. Without mercy, he gave Izuku a glare, telling him, "Speaking in terms of power, we are equal. But know this, I will win this." Straight to the point, Izuku thinks, then responds, "Tigni BB so, however you can't whine without your fire." Todoroki simply glares at the green-haired boy, then leaving as they were called to the stadium. Even from the tunnel, Izuku could hear the roar of the crowds, the bangs of fireworks and the nervous chants of his classmates as they made their way into the stadium. Izuku grumbled as he heard Present Mike announce, "Welcome mass media to the a sports festival. Hope y'all enjoy the show." He blares from the box, "Please welcome our participants, the survives of the USJ, Class A Heroics, followed by Class B Heroics. Then we have the General Studies classes C, D, and E. Then support classes F, G, and H. And then finally business classes I, J, and K, who have also decided to not participate." As Present Mike bursts out the classes involved, they enter the stadium followed by the cheers of the crowd until all the classes gather next to a wooden stage. Our judge in this sports festival will be the 18-plus heroine Midnight. And Midnight walks onto the stage, cracking her WHP towards the students. Izuku can hear mostly males mutter under their breath about something. Once again, Midnight cracks her WHP, gaining everyone's attention, shouting, "And now for our student representative, Izuku Midoriya." Izuku feels the blood drain from his face. From the spectator's booth, he heard two hands face palm, probably both Shoyuta and Hisashi realizing they forgot to tell Izuku about having to do a speech. Precariously, Izuku makes his way onto the stage, Midnight giving him a positive thumbs up. Then he looks towards the crowd and feels his throat clog up as he feels a cold sweat start to form on his brow. His ears ring as he feels his breath quicken. How can he speak in a crowd like this? He stands in front of the microphone with his thoughts buzzing around at 1,000,000 miles per hour. He may have been getting better at speaking in general, but this was far too much too fast for the poor anxiety-ridden boy. Clearing his throat, Izuku speaks, "I pledge you to do my BB best. Why should do ye same? PP plus ultra." He shouted at the end. One round of applause came from the booth as Shoyuta spoke. "Well done, Izuku. You heard him plus ultra." Encouraged, everyone else joined in with the chant. Many are confused though as to why Shoyuta and Izuku are on a first-name basis. Izuku walks off stage and Midnight returns to the microphone with a game wheel with events on. She spins it and it lands on. Midnight wears a sadistic smirk as Present Mike announces the first event. Here you have it, little listeners. An obstacle course. A 5-kilometer race from the stadium and back. There will be obstacle to block the forerunners. Continue Midnight. With Mike finishing our rated heroine. Cracked her WHP, ordering us to line up whilst muttering something about a BLD bath. As he lined up, he couldn't shake the glares that aimed at him, maybe from Bakugo or someone from another course. Izuku shakes his head, no time to think on it, and refocuses on the countdown. 3, 2, 1 and Joel. At the front, Shudo flooded the ground with ice, trapping the unprepared students like those from general education with it. Gracefully, he skated across the ice with practiced ease, Present Mike announcing him in first place, and with Bakugo in second and Yayorozu in third. His mind filled with the buzz of a fight as Mike blared out the second obstacle, Robo Inferno. And as soon as he did, large robots burst from the ground. They were at least 10 stories high with a 0 painted on the chest plate. Huffing, Shudo poured his mother's power into the ground, gliding until he released it, causing a massive glacier to strike the robot and freeze the monstrosity in place. As soon as it froze, he saw a green blur speed past him, too fast to catch up and causing him to lose his position as first place. Back in the stadium, Izuku hadn't moved from his position with his eyes closed close to sleeping. Confused murmurs came from the audience, who quietly questioned what the boy was doing. He had to be powerful, right? He did get first place in the exam. Suddenly, his eyes opened, intense and ready to win. He put his arms out before pulling himself forward at immeasurable speeds, looking like a green blur to many. Izuku himself saw the course and pulled harder, surpassing Todoroki instantly, taking first place. Present Mike was losing his mind at the sudden turn of events, shouting that Izuku was now in first place. Smiling, Izuku came upon the third obstacle, the drop, or a massive split in the ground with platforms leading to the other side, and with the same method he used before he pulled himself to the other side and continued onwards. The final obstacle was the hardest for Izuku, a minefield. He knew it would be dangerous for him, if the sign said anything. He wanted to give the other a chance. He isn't cruel, so he cuts his quirk off and goes on feet, stepping carefully in between the mounds hiding the explosives. Shoyuta couldn't believe his eyes. He knew his son was fast, but meditating for a good 5 minutes, then taking first place with little effort shows how experienced his son is. He led them into a false sense of security, then instantly taking his place when they had gotten complacent. Smart kid. He offers his insight into what happened, and Hisashi looked towards Shoyuta with a proud smirk, which he replicated, both proud of their son knowing he'll win now. Most had probably underestimated him from his speech. Getting over selective mutism is HRD on the kid. His anxiety probably made it much worse. Shuda's so proud. But now he has a job to do, tying a gold headband around his head. Izuku, taking his sweet time, made it back to the stadium, jogging into the place with a bright smile on his face. He'd won the first event, now on to the rest. Minutes drag as the rest of the runners enter the stadium, Todoroki giving Izuku an icy glare, probably due to him taking first place. Midnight once again comes back to a stage with the wheel as she pulls a lever to spin it, and our second event will be. The wheel on the stage had landed on a wolf head snarling. Midnight explained, the aim of the game is to find people that have been hidden in a 6 kilometers area around the stadium. They will have different colored headbands on, which will correspond to the amounts of points: red 15 points, blue 45 points, purple 135 points, pink 405 points. And a single golden headband worth 10,000 points, however, will be the hardest to find. At the end of the 15 minutes, points will be counted and those who have the most points. Have fun. After she finished, everyone noticed the sharp look of amusement in her eyes, and a collective shiver moved down the backs of those participating. Izuku noticed Shuta's lack of commentating in the box, only Hisashi's obnoxiously loud voice and no deadpan tone. Then he realized. A stealth event, with Shoyuta missing. Eraserhead, NSTR of stealth missing from the box, Hill will be the one with the gold band. To his left, he saw Yaoyorozu realize the same thing, as mounting horror made its way onto her face. This'll be a challenge then, thought Izuku. Experience will be the main factor in this event, and both Izuku and Shoyuta had that. Maybe Todoroki, possibly Yaoyorozu, but no one else will be able to find that gold. If Izuku's vigilante career told him anything, Eraserhead when serious is nothing to scoff at. He's ruthless and determined, and this event plays to all of his strengths. Snipe's gun went off, signaling the massacre that will be this round. If what he thinks is going to happen, only 16 will get through out of right of the bat, the other contestants leave the arena, and then echoes of screams come right back into the stadium. Shoyuta was having a blast. The event is Hunt, something that is rarely found in the sports festival rota because of Shoyuta or Eraserhead now. The other headband holders were sidekicks to make it a little bit fairer to the contestants. The hunt goes both ways after all. Grinning creepily, he readies his capture gear as some the prey, oh wait contestants, come within close to him, getting captured and shriek at the top of their lungs at the unknown attacker or Eraserhead grinning at them with a terrifying grin. He knows the only one that has a chance of getting the band would be Izuku. Shoyuta isn't the known as the MSTR of stealth for nothing. In the corner of his eye, he sees a lilac-haired boy, running around with 3 others carrying him like a king of some sort. Said servants had blank faces and washed-out eyes as they carried their purple-haired leader. Distracted, he steps on a twig, but thankfully doesn't garner the attention of the boy, but does another which he didn't want. Izuku. On the top of the stadium walls, Izuku sat with his legs crossed as he used his telekinetic powers to draw sound waves towards him, listening out for Shoyuta, and he had to admit the man was damn good at this. It took a good 8 minutes until he located his target, as Shoyuta stood on a twig as the sound is drawn to Izuku, and without a second thought he catapulted towards his target, which he suspects knows about Izuku's approach by now. A blur of black hops from tree to tree and Izuku knows who it is, swiftly swooping down to claim the headband from the man, who looks in surprise at Izuku who just hops off before erasure can be activated. Izuku notices Hisashi had been quiet this match as it was a stealth event, so he did little commentating, instead choose to watch with the audience. Izuku dodges the rest of the contestants, some had gathered enough points to pass, for the rest of the game. 7 minutes of hide and seek later, the remaining people returned. Only about 21 returned, half had been lost from them being captured. Hisashi spurs into action, and in first place we have Izuku Midoriya once again. The boy has shown excellent intelligence gathering skills as well as capture skills. In second we have Momo Yaoyorozu with her creative making of a spy kit. Third we have Shuto Todoroki with overwhelming force. Fourth we have Katsuki Bakugu who showed extreme combat abilities. Fifth we have Hitoshi Shinsu with his servants. Izuku only hears the top 5, the rest are shown on a scoreboard, earning a spot in the final event of the festival, a battle. After the second event, the remaining people in the festival go for a break as Cementos sets up the stage for the last event. Izuku is about to enter the mess hall, until Todoroki grabs his arm and pulls him to the staff exit of the arena, not talking at all. Both sit in a tense silence, as their eyes roam one another, studying the body language and features of the other. Izuku's attention is returned to Todoroki as he speaks. You are strong, I'll hand you that. But I am stronger. I will beat you with my mother's power, not my father's. That I pledge. Turning away to leave or would've if Izuku didn't speak up, that's you F first M a mistake, tuodara ki. WWU and notice it. Izuku mumbles at Todoroki before leaving the boy confused. In Tokyo, the heads of the Crimson Wyverns watch the festival with interest. These trainees will be enemies that will be the clan will be faced with in the future, so better learn how to crush them with ease. Hisashi watched as the classes were announced to the world. They looked interesting, especially the blonde. He looks like he could fit in here. Both froze, however, when they heard the student representative get called up, a name they haven't heard in years, Izuku Midoriya. He stutters through his small pledge, but both can't help but look at the similarities. Their son was in you. A quirkless nobody had made it into you. And the fact alone shocked them to the core. They watched like vultures as the first event started, and Izuku stood there until he flung off to win the first and second event with a form of telekinesis, shell-shocked that their son had a quirk, an extremely powerful quirk. Hisashi couldn't help but near salivate over his son's raw power. A worthy heir to carry the Crimson Wyverns is the only thought that he has. Inko is no better. He had her quirk but powered up beyond belief, an upgrade of her basically. If only he had a father's quirk too, then he would be unstoppable. As the festival goes for a break, the door bursts open, showing the generals of the Wyverns breathing like they had run a marathon, as they all exclaimed at once, "You have a son." Hisashi and Inko both look at one another. This wasn't supposed to happen, but they can deal with it. Now they had an heir that they need to acquire and train for his rightful place. His power will bring the Red Wyverns to become the most powerful organization in Japan. Diabolical smirks plaster onto their faces as Hisashi says, "Yes. We have a son, an heir to carry the Crimson Wyverns. His power will make the Crimson Wyverns the most powerful villain organization in the world." He laughs, evil and cold, sending shivers down their spines. Back at the festival, the 16 remaining make their way to a waiting room that has a scoreboard on it, telling them who they will be battling. The battles are Izuku Midoriya vs. Ibara Shizuki, Denki Kaminari vs. Hitoshi Shinso, Momo Yaoyorozu vs. Sato Rikido, Eijiro Kirishima vs. Tetsutetsu, Mina Ashido vs. Yuga Aoyama, Shudo Todoroki vs. Shiro Hanta, Koji Kuda vs. Fumikage Tokoyami, Katsuki Bakugu vs. Mizo Shoji. Time for the first battle. This is where the fun begins, Izuku thought as he prepared for his first match. His mind wanders to his opponent, Ibara Shiozaki, a fellow greenhead, but the hair itself are vines, unlike Izuku's natural color of forest green. The matchup is in favor of Izuku. His fire can torch the vines that make up his enemy's hair. However, he doesn't know her fighting style or how good she actually is at hand-to-hand combat. He himself is a near MSTR at many styles of close combat. He's knocked out of his mind by Hisashi blaring out, "Can Izuku Midoriya and Ibara Shiozaki come to the arena please?" Hisashi's voice bubbly and light as Izuku makes his way to the arena. He enters the arena, covering his eyes from the sudden light, as 4 fires blaze in a style reminiscent to the old Olympics torch. Then he moves to the stage that had been built during the short break between the matches, and climbs up the stairs. As he reaches the top, he sees the vine-haired girl mirror him until both face each other. Said girl was holding a Catholic cross and appeared to be praying. Midnight comes onto a smaller wooden stage with her WP in one hand and the other being held up over her head as she tells us the rules. Alright. Opponents are allowed to use their quirks. However, no maiming or killing, which will be dealt with the full extent of the law. She cracks her WHP, now. The first to be knocked out of bounds or knocked unconscious will be disqualified and the other will continue. Midnight licks her lips seductively, before pulling a page from Ida's page and chops the air shouting, "Begin!" Instantly, both parties charge at each other, Shiozaki moving her arms out, and the vines follow her movement speeding towards Izuku, who skids to a stop. Quickly, the vines encompass Izuku, gaining shocked gasps from the audience, and waits for Midnight to start counting down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as she reaches 1, Izuku pushes out his fire, verdant flames charring the vines, rendering the poor girl completely bald. Mortified, Shizuki runs to and tries to punch Izuku but is blocked and he jabs back, knocking her out. Silence rang out in the audience before it burst out in thunderous applause for the boy. Hisashi drinking in the attention announces, and with that intense display of firepower, Izuku Midoriya moves on to the next round of the battle event. Obliviously, the audience missed the pride in the man's voice, and no one could see two proud dads in the booth, grinning wide at the victory their son had attained. Said son was red-faced with all the attention on him, and Izuku could practically feel Hisashi's proudness from his spot in the stadium, soon leaving back to the changing room to prepare for the next match. He left his room, making his way to the spectators' booth for 1A. He soon reaches it and pushes the door open. Silently, he enters the booth and sees his classmates which had varying emotions on their faces, or one a void of emotion on their face. He clears his throat, garnering the attention of the class who flinch at him, before charging at him and piling on top of him congratulating him. Izuku blushes bright red. He's not used to so much attention on him. Yes, he is an ex-vigilante. Yes, he is 6'2". Yes, he can lift over 500 kilograms. No, he cannot handle crowds. He nods and rubs the back of his neck, a nervous tic he could never get rid of, before he sits down and readies himself for the next match. Izuku listens to his adoptive dad listen to the next victims. Oh wait, contestants, next we have a match between Denki Kaminari versus Hitashui Shinsu. Both boys enter the same way Izuku and Shiozaki did. Midnight cut down her speech to get the matches done faster. The audience are vicious and want BLD apparently. As she cracks her WHP, Shinso starts talking to Kaminari, who responds with an indignant look on his face. Kaminari's face then becomes carefully blank, his eyes glaze over becoming a distant gray. Shinso says something once again, or more like commands, then Kaminari starts to move out of bounds. It didn't last long, and Shoyuta speaks up. This is why the entrance exams are unfair. Hitoshi Shinsu's quirk is a mental quirk and cannot affect the robots that uses. It is biased towards those with physical quirks. Izuku looks to the booth. Shoyuta had been noticeably silent during most of the festival. Sometimes giving a snide comment or actually commentating on the festival, nothing else. Then it clicks. Shoyuta wants to take him on as his personal student. Sighing, Izuku leans back, glancing at his classmates who look both in bewilderment and awe at the boy who defeated a hero course student. They underestimated him, and it serves them right. Once Kaminari returns, the rest of the class just pat him on the back, offering him sympathy, and he returns it with a shaky grin. Izuku moves his eyes back to the field, waiting for the next match. Can Momo Yaoyorozu and Sato Rikido make their way to stadium please? Hisashi asks through the intercom, then announces their match. Izuku can predict who will win this. Although Rikido has a powerful quirk, he has nothing on Yaoyorozu. Her intellect and power are a cut above the rest, so Izuku knows she has this one. As soon as the match starts, Rikido chugs down sugar, buffing him up, but you can see the effect as a bit of drool drips down out of his mouth. Yaoyorozu shouts at him insults, causing him to charge to her, and she swiftly dodges the boy as he flies out of bounds. Midnight calls the match and both contestants leave. Hisashi calls out. Eijiro Kirishima and Tetsu enter the arena. Steel versus rock. The same quirk in different formats. Endurance is key, Izuku notes as they enter. Kirishima's match begins and it is a slugfest. Both brawlers whack each other around, trading blows, and the audience love it. Until they don't, as it drags for over 10 minutes. At the 10-minute mark, the both of them pass out from quirk exhaustion and are dragged off by Medibots towards Recovery Girl's temporary medic ward. In the end, the match is decided by a game of arm wrestle in which Kirishima wins, advancing him to the next round. The next round was a match of style. Ashido was giddy and excitable as she glided around the stage on her acid, dancing around Aoyama whilst throwing weak acid towards his navel laser. Aoyama fired his laser towards Ashido, sparkling blue bolted forward, then it shimmered out as he keeled over, holding his stomach tight. Using this, Ashido threw acid at his belt, causing it to melt, before she tossed him out of bounds over her shoulder. People clapped at Ashido's skills and tactics, as well as her dance moves. After Ashido's match, Todoroki and Siro's match was over before it began. Izuku could see the animosity in his eyes as he entered and the frost covering his right side. As soon as the match had been called, it ended. With a massive glacier that engulfed half of the stadium, entrapping poor Zero with it as it stuck outside of the stadium for the heroes surround the stadium to see. Midnight finished the match shivering wildly due to the layer of frost on her body, Todoroki making his way to his frozen opponent and started to melt the ice with his left side, purposefully looking towards 1A stands, sending them muttering about the intimidation, but Izuku can see the deep sadness in those eyes and the same eyes he once saw in himself. Now it didn't matter to win the festival now, all that mattered is helping Todoroki to overcome his barriers to his power. Hisashi can't help but smirk evilly. His son had both his and Inko's quirks, and with them he can destroy all that stand in his way and lead the Crimson Wyverns into a ruling force over Japan. He notices the boy has a scar on his right side of his face, a burn in the vague shape of a hand, faded well, meaning it's old. This boy is a powerhouse, trained well with boy quirked and quirkless combat, and his quirk is magnificent just as powerful as the boy. He is a worthy successor to the Crimson Wyverns. Now it's just a game of patience so that Hisashi can change the boy from the path of a hero to the path of a villain. Rubbing his hands, he starts to plan out an operation to get his son back to him without the heroes being alerted. Behind a screen in a bar, a suited man sat in a chair, his head resting on his chin, watching the festival. His face blended into a mass of flesh, and a mask to help with his breathing, but a smile stretched on his face. Izuku Midoriya, an interesting specimen indeed, the man thinks. He notices the look in the boy's eyes, sending into the past to his frail younger brother who had the exact same look when he faced the masked man for the last time with that demed quirk that's caused him so many problems. No lightning, so he doesn't carry the quirk, not yet at least, but if the boy does, then his downfall is imminent end. Perhaps this will end that endless CYCL that has gone on for generations, and if he is to be honest, he feels like his time is coming. Now all there is to do is wait. Todoroki's match left the audience reeling, thirsty for more. The next round was another fast one due to the lack of animals for Kuda to control. Izuku watches Tokoyami release Dark Shadow, commanding the creature of darkness to knock Kuda out of bounds. It listens, picking up the poor boy who is quivering in fear, then drops him out of the field's bound. The audience clap, but not very enthusiastic due to the lack of power the last round had. Izuku knows the next match will satisfy the spectators. Bakugo vs Shoji will be interesting, firepower against brute force, fury versus calm. Opposites of one another. Izuku hears Hisashi call the two of them to the stadium, and the midnight begins the match. Bakugo flies at Shoji, who predicts this and grabs the boy with his immense strength, then flings him back like an explosive ragdoll. Explodo Boy stops midair using his explosions and snarls like a wild wolf, firing of more explosives at the Six Arms boy. They are blocked by three of the boy's arms, the other three curling up and moving to punch Bakugo, but it misses him when he used his explosions to maneuver in the air to dodge and sends yet another explosion towards Shoji's masked face. He skids back, tittering on the edge before he's knocked with another explosion to his face. Now that Shoji was out, Bakugo is announced as the winner, and moved on to the next round. After the first round of battles, Hisashi calls for a short break to let the ones who advanced get some rest for the rest of the battles to come. As Izuku leaves the stands to get something to eat from the cafeteria, his arm is gripped as he gets dragged in the opposite direction by Todoroki. Neither notices that Bakugo had seen them leave and follows them as they enter an abandoned corridor and look each other in the eyes for a bit. The tension, it's definitely SXL palpable between the scarred boys. Thick silence before Todoroki breaks it. Your power. It reminds me of my father's. He starts, I have a question. Are you my father's secret love child or something? He finishes his question, looking directly into Izuku's eyes, somehow convinced that his theory is true. Izuku doesn't know how to respond to that, and blabbers out. And no, not that I believe anyway. Izuku looks away, his parents are still a sore topic to him. He's about to speak up but Todoroki beats him. Anyway, I know All Might has his eyes on you. He states, and Izuku raises his eyebrow. He does. Izuku thinks, Todoroki continues, I have a duty to beat All Might, and you by extension if you are related somehow. Todoroki looks to his hands, before one covers his scar. Midoriya. Do you know what quirk marriages are? Izuku shakes his head yes. They are an old concept brought up when quirks first came about. My father had practically bought my mother from her family to produce a perfect successor with the perfect quirk to beat All Might, which he himself could not do. Pain flashes across his face. It took 3 tries to get the perfect one me and train me from my quirk first coming through. His abuse extended throughout my house, to my siblings and mother. He drags his hand from his face. One day, her mind broke from the abuse, then proceeded to pour boiling water onto my face while saying, "Your left side is unsightly, my left side is a burden." It broke my mother, and I swear to never use it. Todoroki stares into the distance. His power brought only pain, so I will use only my mother's power to become the #1 hero. He turns away to leave until Izuku speaks up. No one knows this but Aizawa. I was abandoned when I was 4 years old. Immediately Todoroki spins around to look at him incredulously. I had been misdiagnosed as quirkless, and as I went home with my parents, they burnt my back and told me that I'm worthless, then left. Izuku can barely contain his tears. It was hell. They had thankfully bought the apartment I live in currently, so I had a roof over my head, but nothing else. I had to work at 4 years old to feed myself. I had to suffer abuse at school due to my misdiagnosis, while slowly wasting away from lack of food. Tears started to drip down my face. The day I had gotten this scar, Izuku pulls up his hand to his right side, was when a classmate used his quirk on me, damaging my face beyond repair, leaving me partially blind in my right eye. God, this is hard, Izuku thinks. At 8 years old, I almost died. He could see Todoroki's eyes widen. A man with a transformation quirk hit me with a steel fist, breaking my ribs. One rib pierced my heart. He stops, looks at Todoroki, then moves on. This caused my quirk to awaken, a mutated combination of my parents' quirks, but I never used it for 2 years. Izuku sees the understanding in Todoroki's. I mean, why would I use a quirk that was given to me by those who left me for dead? But one day I realized that this power, he holds up a golden flame, is my power, not my parents', only mine to wield, mine to command and use. Something which you should realize by now is that left side of yours is not your father's power, or your right side your mother power, but your power Todoroki. Izuku moves to leave, calling over his shoulder, I hope you figure this out, I wish you the best. Shudo stood shell-shocked. That boy knows what it's like and had suffered so much worse, yet he can smile like the sun when he does. He didn't let his hate cloud his mind like Shudo did, but pushed it aside to help a true hero if he has even seen one. He can't help but think to Midoriya's words, it's your power, his power, not his father's or his mother's, but his. He knows it true, with his left he holds it up and lights a fire on his palm. And Shudo thinks. Another thought that bounces into his mind is, where are his parents? I need to visit them for reason. He thinks as ice crawls down to his fingers. Once the break is over, the remaining contestants go to the stadium to see who they are up against. The matches are Hitoshi Shinso vs Mina Ashido Katsuki Bakugo vs Eijiro Kirishima Shudo Todoroki vs Fumikage Tokoyami Izuku Midoriya vs Momo Yaoyorozu. The first match is called by Hisashi. Izuku makes his way into the stands to watch the match. He sees both Mina, as she asked him to call her that, and Shinso enter the ring. The match begins, Izuku watching in fascination as the boy takes Mina under his control, making her leave the bounds of the field, making him the winner. The second match is a match of stamina, Bakugo using his explosions at Kirishima's weak points to wear away at his stamina, causing him to drop his quirk due to fatigue, then blast him out of the ring. Izuku noted the pang of guilt that entered Bakugo's eyes when he hit Kirishima. It would appear an angry Pomeranian has a crush. After the second match, the third was perhaps the boringest out of the matches. Todoroki simply sent his ice to push the avian-headed boy out of bounds before he could even summon his quirk. Izuku lumbered up. Yaoyorozu is formidable and dangerous, with a quirk that can create anything at her will. He made his way into the stadium, seeing Yaoyorozu emerging from the other side, both bowing politely. then getting into fighting stances as Midnight finishes her countdown, beginning the match. Yaoyorozu starts by producing a bow staff, moving towards Izuku with practiced grace. In return, Izuku forms a katana using his flames to block Yaoyorozu's swing to his head. From an untrained perspective, it looked like two people whacking each other, but to those trained, it was a dance of elegance between two near professionals. In the end, however, Izuku's experience caused Yaoyorozu to fail, getting knocked out of bounds by Izuku. The boy whispered into her ear, "You may not understand this, but you are one of the best hand-to-hand combatants I have faced," before stalking off, leaving a very confused Yaoyorozu behind. Izuku went back to his changing room to get some water, but his endeavor is cut short by Endeavor, the man himself, glaring around with his arms crossed. The flaming garbage hero notices Izuku, arrogantly pointing a finger at him. "Boy, your quirk is nothing but a mere shadow of my hellfire." He states condescendingly, "My Shudo has a duty to surpass myself in all might. You are nothing but a pebble for that duty." The man failed to notice Izuku slipping into what he dubbed as his Crimson Blaze persona, as he holds out his hand, proceeding to absorb Endeavor's hellfire for his own. Endeavor's beard and hair die out as his eyes widen when he notices Izuku pulling Endeavor's hellfire to him and absorbing it. In anger, Endeavor yells, "What do you think you're doing?" Izuku merely blinks at the man, and before Endeavor could even comprehend, he felt a blade at his throat and a presence behind him. Izuku held a flaming sword to his throat before he started to speak into the man's ear, the number 2 hero brought to his knees by a first year. How disappointing. No matter. Listen up and listen well. Enji Todoroki, your hellfire will not return until I deem you worthy to possess this power again. Fury etched its way onto Endeavor's face. No way this boy had rendered him powerless. He jolted at the feeling or lack there of his quirk. The boy had taken his flames away. Izuku looked down at the flame hero, his cyan eyes extinguished of that fire he had seen before his quirk was absorbed. Emerald glared into blue. Before the boy held out his hand, a bright ball of fire hovered over his palm. Hellfire. Coldly, Izuku throws at Endeavor. This is your core. Not many quirk holders have them, a rare phenomenon so to speak. Your quirk relies on the core to function. Without the core, your hellfire has no fuel to ignite. He told brutally, your quirk has not gone, only the fuel for it. Izuku moves into Endeavor's personal space, face to face with the man. I ripped your fuel out of your body, your quirk useless without it. You're powerless. Then stormed off, leaving a powerless Endeavor behind. Turning the corner, Izuku collapsed into a wall, feeling his breath become shallow with fear as his heartbeat sped up, causing him to begin hyperventilating. He felt lightheaded and his eyes went into tunnel vision, hands callously gripping his hair in panic, memories buzzing about as Endeavor's fire said of Izuku's. Memory of his father, phantom pain crawling up his back. Suddenly, a pair of hands anchored him back into the real world. There crouched in front of him was the heterochromia boy, Todoroki, his usually stoic face betraying one of concern. Izuku could barely hear the boy as he spoke. Midoriya? Midoriya, breath with me. Come on, breath in, he breathed in, and out, he breathed out, and again. It took some time, but Izuku finally calmed down, his heartbeat calming back down, his breathing normal again. He nodded to Todoroki in thanks, unable to cough up words. Izuku frisked himself to find a pen and paper to write on, no such luck sadly, so he waved his hand to Todoroki, telling him to follow. Izuku held a hand over his heart, feeling like his heart was ripped in two. He admits to himself he misses Todoroki's hands on his, one being cold the other warm, but quickly shakes the thoughts away. No time, he thinks. They reach changing room 1, where no one was due to them wanting to get a bit to eat before the last rounds of the festival begins. Izuku strides over to his eye-bleeding yellow bag, getting out his notebook, writing to Todoroki, "Thank you. I rarely have a panic attack nowadays. Your dad is a prick, by the way." The shocked, confused look on his face, combined with the slight head tilt, made him look like a kitten. Izuku blushes, adorable. Wait, no, hold on. His thought train is derailed when Todoroki looks at him, telling him to continue writing. Yeah. He told me my quirk is a mere shadow of his hellfire. Izuku quotes it using his fingers, so I took it. Pure awe is what Izuku would say looking into the boy's eyes who yelled, "You took his fire." Shrugging, Izuku played innocent. It wasn't every day you hear the number 2 hero is lacking his signature flames, so he held up Hellflame's core. He doesn't deserve his power, is what Izuku wrote to Todoroki. Before either could talk again, the intercom buzzed to life as the screen lit up, showing the next matchings. Izuku Midoriya vs Shudo Todoroki Hitoshi Shinso vs Katsuki Bakugo. Izuku smiled at Todoroki, bright and pearly white teeth glimmered, and Todoroki covered his eyes, muttering under his breath about something being too bright. Izuku shrugged. He had a match to get to, so he looked to Todoroki and prepared to fight the boy in a heated duel of fate, one vying to denounce his father, the other to show that he is here and that he has what it takes to be a hero. Izuku threw a casual wave over his shoulder to the other. The next time they see each other, they will be enemies. Shoyuta can't wait for this match. He rubbed his hands in preparation. It is bound to be good, but he has money riding on this match. No one knows Shuta's darkest secret, but he is a filthy shipper, and the SXL tension between those boys is noticeable from a mile away. Shoyuta had bet that by the end of week after the sports festival, those two would be a couple. The stakes are high, and Shoyuta feels the giddiness of the match riling him up. His son found someone. First, he had to beat up the poor boy to win, however, brutal love showing. He grinned sadistically. Poor Hisashi had a near heart attack at his husband's face. Popcorn in hand, this match will be a bloodbath. Oblivious to the whole thing, Izuku makes his way out to the stadium. The other side had Todoroki doing the same. Izuku hears popcorn being eaten over the mic in the announcer's box. Shuta's eating popcorn. Izuku deadpants. Midnight WHPs her head to both boys, pulling up a walkie-talkie from nowhere and mutters something about intense SXL tension between the two of them. 3, 2, and 1. Go. Instantly, Todoroki releases a glacier at Izuku, who looks at the thing passively as it approaches at alarming speeds. He holds up his hand, releasing crimson fire. This gets gasps of surprise from the audience, some recognizing the flames and connected the dots fast. Izuku grins nervously at the box, hearing a deep, tired sigh emanating from it. "The problem child." Shoyuta mutters, always causing a mess. Yes, Izuku Midoriya is the former vigilante Crimson Blaze, which was supposed to be kept quiet. Izuku Midoriya? Shoyuta announced, letting anger seep into the mic, and it drips into the stadium, causing Izuku to wince. The match still hadn't ended, so Todoroki sent waves of ice to Izuku, who casually shrugged them off, watching as frost slowly creeped up Todoroki's right side, slowing the boy down, his breath visible from the sheer coldness around him. Izuku runs up to him at breakneck speeds, and whispers into his ear, "Your power, not his." Simple and to the point, but it gets the reaction he wants. Tears glide down Todoroki's face, then steam comes off his right side, not before a glacier the size of a cargo ship flies towards Izuku, who summons his hottest flames and releases them. Ice and fire collide, rapidly cooling then heating up the air, resulting in an implosion, subdued slightly thanks to Cementos quirks softening the blow. Slightly. Izuku stood up as he absorbed the explosion, whilst Todoroki is flung out of bounds due to the sheer force of the explosion at hand. Izuku dusts himself off, totally unharmed, passively looking to Todoroki, who passed out from exhaustion as the crowd goes wild at the monumental power of Izuku Midoriya. Carefully, Izuku picks up Todoroki and carries him bridal style to Recovery Girl's office, said lady, scolding him for doing this and drawing out the match for too long. Yawning, Izuku returns to the 1A stands, waiting for the next match. He's not noticed yet, so he perches himself in a dark corner to watch the match. Once again, Hisashi calls the contestants to the field, then Midnight tells them the rules before counting down. 3, 2, 1, and go. Shinso looks passively at the explosive boy, shouting at him that he'll never be number 1 with that attitude and that he'd be a better villain. In typical Bakugo fashion, he blows up yelling at the purple-haired boy, then falls slack, eyes dull and washed out. Shinso waves the boy off, and he complies like a wooden doll, walking out of bounds over the white lines, and Midnight announces Shinso as the winner. Shinso releases the explosive boy, who looks at his hands in shock, probably due to him being defeated so easily. The other bows politely and walks off, a smug grin on his face, eerily similar to Shuta's Izuku thinks. Now it's time for the very last match of the entire festival. One general education underdog versus an ex-vigilante and hero course student. An interesting matchup, Izuku hums to himself. They enter the stadium, the purple-haired one relaxed with a slouch in his shoulder and his hands in his pocket. Izuku stands tall at his max height of 6 feet 2 inches, which towers over 𝐮𝐲 who only stood at 5 feet 9 inches, his shoulders squared and tight, his muscles relaxed and tense up in preparation. Midnight starts counting. The finale in 3, 2, 1. Then he go. Chopping her hand down, Izuku broke into a sprint, getting closer to 𝐮𝐲, who started speaking to him. You have a very heroic quirk. I'm jealous really. He begins, wanting a rise. Your classmates were weak, too prideful. The entrance exam is biased to quirks that are physical, and those with mental quirks are left in the dust, unlike you who has had everything spoon-fed to you for your quirk. That sets off Izuku. He worked hard for everything he gained. You have no idea what I did. He was cut off as 𝐮𝐲's quirk took effect, leaving a fog covering his mind and the inability to control his body in any way other than subconsciously. Mentally, he screamed to get out but stopped when he heard a voice cut through the fog. I have to win this, so you have to lose for me. Walk out of bound Izuku Midoriya. Obeying, Izuku slowly walks to the edge of the field and would have stepped out of bounds if not for the golden light bathed his mind, fighting the fog in his mind. 7 or 8 voices, one eerily similar to the number 1 hero's voice, shouted for him to gain control. Distracted, he calls on his quirk, releasing a massive supernova of multicolored fire, knocking Izuku out of 𝐮𝐲's control. 𝐮𝐲 took a step back in shock. No one had forcefully removed the effects of his quirk before. Izuku tenses and turns around to look at the scope of damage. The immediate area around him scorched, blackened as if a bomb had gone off. The concrete had cracked from the intense heat of Izuku's supernova. Summoning a blazing katana, Izuku ran towards the brainwasher, who now looked panicked at Izuku's advance. Sloppily, 𝐮𝐲 threw a fist at Izuku, who dodged the fist, and struck with his own, causing the wind to leave 𝐮𝐲's lungs. 𝐮𝐲 collapsed to the floor, holding his stomach, and then lifted up by Izuku using telekinesis, soon throwing him over the boundary line. Confetti erupted around the stadium, Hisashi shouting, and the winner of this year's sports festival is none other than Izuku Midoriya. The crowd was buzzing with the victory, an ultimate show of power with that final explosion of fire Izuku did. Izuku went over to 𝐮𝐲, offering the boy his hand, doing crude sign gestures to try and tell 𝐮𝐲 he did well, and in response 𝐮𝐲 shook Izuku's hand and told him that, your power is well deserved. His lips quirking up in the corners, not a full smile but one nonetheless. Half an hour passed since the finale, and the podiums built tall with the center being the tallest, the one on the left being the second tallest, and the one on the right the smallest and closest to the ground. All the first years gathered in the arena, looking to the podium where 3 boys stood tall. Midnight grabbed a mic from thin air and spoke into it, and now for our special guest. All Might, forwards, I am here. Both teachers look at each other apologetically as they cut one another off, but Midnight waved him off to announce the rest. Coughing, All Might continued onwards, and in third place we have Shuto Todoroki. Boldly told, placing a bronze medal around his neck, giving him an awkward hug, whispering into his ear, I believe something has changed in you, young Todoroki. Then stood tall once again as Todoroki replied, yes. My match with Midoriya was eye-opening for me. Nodding his head left to signal at Izuku, who may or may not have overheard. All Might moves on to the next person. In second place, we have Hitoshi 𝐮𝐲. Once again he gave 𝐮𝐲 a silver medal, then he hugged the boy, who didn't even respond until All Might whispered into his ear, well done young 𝐮𝐲. You must be proud of your accomplishment. No one commented on the slight cracking of All Might's back as he stood back up. His eyes moved to the last person, and in first place we have Izuku Midoriya, winner of the festival. A golden medal snaked its way around Izuku's neck, as warm hands encircled him, feeling All Might towering over him as he whispered to Izuku, well done my boy. Before you leave, I want to discuss something with you. Come to the roof at you. Then he stood tall, raising his fist and shouted, "Now say it with me, everyone. Plus ultra, forwards-ish, thank you for all your hard work." Everyone glared at the #1 hero, shouting, "It's meant to be plus ultra all might." All Might responded to the crowd guiltily, "I thought everyone worked hard in the festival." Izuku shook his head at the man's antics, wondering about what the man wanted to speak to Izuku about. The serious tone had suggested it is something that All Might holds close to his heart. What it is Izuku can only guess. Hisashi was having a field day with the sports festival, running around the nest announcing that the first-place winner was his son. The followers of the Crimson Wyverns leaped with joy at the boss's successor. A powerhouse to be sure. If winner the sports festival is anything to go by, everyone in the compound could feel the ominous aura coming from Hisashi's office when he had finally calmed down and left. He has plans to get his son back into his grasp and properly groom him into the next leader of the Crimson Wyverns. His phone suddenly rang, jolting Hisashi from his musings as he lifted up the receiver, then spoke, Red Vermilion speaking. He told the unknown person on the other end, who spoke up in a cold, calculating voice, "Hello, Red Vermilion. It has been a while since we have spoken." Hisashi could practically feel the smile on the other man's face over the phone. "No matter. I am here to talk about a proposal." Hisashi thinks, then shivers, feeling the warm air plummet as a black inky portal burst into his office, taking all the heat with it. Out of the portal came a tall man in a black suit, face obscured with a sleek black mask in the vague shape of a skull, with 6 breathing tubes connecting to a respirator for breathing. Hisashi bowed, "Sensei, welcome." Hisashi could tell the man was smiling beneath the mask as he lifted his hand up to signal for Hisashi to stand. Sensei spoke up, "Your organization is well manned. Congratulations. I have a request for you, and it involves your son, Izuku Midoriya." Hisashi perked up, his son is involved after all. Sensei continues, "I propose an alliance between the League of Villains and the Crimson Wyverns. My successor is leading the group. As a token of appreciation for joining, we get your son for you." Sensei holds out his hand, and Hisashi takes the deal. This guarantees that his son will back in Hisashi's possession with the backing of Sensei. Sensei, or more commonly known as All for One, his original loss to time itself, looks at his former pupil. He will be a great asset in tearing down society, All for One thinks, and a good teacher for Shigaraki if I am taken down by All Might or his successor. All for One speaks up to his pupil, Send some of your vanguard, as you put them, to the League and we will see if they are a good fit." He watches with curiosity as Hisashi pulls a phone out and places it to his ear. Quickly he mutters into the device, then hangs up, telling All for One, "They will arrive soon, Sensei." Not long after, 5 people walk in. 4 women and 1 man. The first woman steps forward, "Sir, Vanguard Leader, Umbra at your command." The first one spoke up. She had long black hair, eyes like the void itself. The tips of her fingers were black too, a mutation of her quirk perhaps, All for One muses. Another speaks up, "Sir, Vanguard Medic, Kronos." She had short, purple hair tied up in a ponytail. Greek god of time interesting. The male steps up, "Greetings, Vanguard Weapons Specialist, Armory." Bowing politely, his silver hair tied up in a similar fashion to Kronos before him. The third woman comes forward, "Hi. Vanguard Barrier, Fortress." An energetic lady says, bouncing up and down with brown hair. The last one steps up calmly, Vanguard Assassin, Phantom. Then steps back in line with the rest. Hisashi comes forward handing All for One their files, Umbra, Quirk, Umbrakinesis, Manipulation and Generation of Darkness. Powerful quirk if used right. Kronos, Quirk, Chronokinesis, Manipulation of time in small increments. Armory, Quirk. Weapon creation, the ability to produce weapons at will. Fortress, Quirk. Force field generation, the ability to produce shields made of energy. Phantom, Quirk, not applicable. Blinking, All for One looked at the last member, their assassin. She was quirkless. How oh so lucky All for One is, It's rare to find a fully quirkless person in Japan in this age. They have a near-infinite quirk factor. They are the best for quirk stockpiles for him. He looks into his own stockpile for the best quirks an assassin can have. There, plain sight, cloak, hidden blade, steel claws, void fingers. All for one merge the 5 quirks, and turns to Phantom asking, "You're quirkless, are you not?" She flinches slightly at the mention. "You have been scorned by this corrupt society for something you do not control. I can make you into the best assassin there is, if you accept." He offers his hand, black and red flames engulfing his hand. "With this deal, you will no longer be powerless, you will be better than other. Accept this gift and become what you were born to do." Her eyes fill with animosity, hatred and anger, her hands slowly reaching to all for ones, both meeting in the middle, the merged quirks bonding to her. "Your quirk, your very own power, give it a name." All for one commands. Phantom gasps out in staggered breath, "Wraith." "Phantom, quirk, not applicable Wraith." Isashi grins. "The Vanguard Squadron is more powerful than ever, and his son will be in his grasp soon. Soon, Izuku, soon you will be with me again." Back at Mizudafu, Izuku feels dread crawl down his back again, that bad feeling that something is going to happen soon, something really bad. He searches high and low for All Might, and finds the man at the rooftop in fact, his face looking morose and lacking his usual confident smile. All Might must have heard the door open, as he looks to Izuku when he moves towards the symbol of peace. However, before Izuku could reach the man and talk to him, he poofs into a cloud of smoke and is replaced by a skeleton-looking man about half the height of All Might or All Might's muscle form. Izuku hears a gasp from somewhere, then realizes it is his own. This is that Toshinori Yagi guy from a while back, All Might's secretary. Izuku moves to speak but All Might beats him to it. "Hello young Midoriya. Yes, this frail body of mine is my true form, a bit disappointing is it not?" All Might pulls up his now sagging shirt, showing a brutal-looking scar, all purple and red skin around. "This is an injury I got 5 years ago, limiting my quirk usage, gradually declining from 9 to 7 to 5 then to 3 hours a day." His electric blue eyes bore into emerald. "Young Midoriya, tell me why you wish to be a hero." All Might coughs BLD into his hand, waving off Izuku's concerned gaze, gesturing for him to continue. "WWIIW wanted TT to be a H-hero for as long as I could remember. I was misdiagnosed as QQ quirkless at 4 years old, then my life went to hell." Aizawa has the entire story if you want to ask him. Anyway, I now want to be a hero to inspire hope in those in dark places, a guiding beacon so to speak, to be the hero that I had lacked when I was young. If that makes any sense. Izuku finishes him impromptu speech whilst All Might looks at him with something akin to awe or pride. Suddenly, All Might bursts up in an uproar of smoke, his muscle form bulging as he tensed his muscles, shouting, "Young Midoriya. Such conviction, my boy. It seems my choice is correct after all." He declares, garnering a confused look from Izuku, "My quirk is called One for All." All Might then hold out his hand, palm facing the sky as a ball of multicolored light condensed into it. "It is a unique quirk, a crystalline network of power that can be transferred from one user to the next. One user adds to the stockpile, then passes it one to the next, and I want you, Izuku Midoriya, to become the 9th wielder of One for All." All Might all but shouts out. Izuku looks at All Might with bewilderment written all over his face. A transferable quirk without being born with it. Izuku can't believe it. Izuku stands in tense silence for 10 minutes, deciding about the role, the responsibility. All Might I. I'll do it." Izuku decided, beaming a smile he hasn't had since his BRH parents had left. Izuku could also hear All Might mutter something about being too pure for this world. Then his smile becoming proud as he proclaimed, "Now young Midoriya, lift up your shirt." A red blush sported Izuku's face as he hesitantly lifted his shirt to show All Might. Underneath his shirt was the body of a Greek god, a toned 8-pack, lean muscles all around, and what some would consider muscles on top of muscles. However, his skin looked bad, littered with scars, cuts and large gashes healed with time to burns. The biggest scar was the one hidden on his back. A pink burn crawled up his back, some skin charred too. Quickly, he placed his shirt back on, obviously self-conscious about the scars. Izuku looked away, waiting for All Might's judgment. He listened to the man come closer, placing a large hand on his shoulder to comfort him. My boy, there is no reason to hide your scars. None. They show that you survived. You are a survivor, a fighter. Feel proud in them. Let remind you why you fight. All Might told Izuku in a calm, soothing voice, then belted out. Now then. You definitely have the body to receive one for all. All that is left for you to eat this. Whilst holding out a long piece of blonde hair he just plucked from his bangs. On the roof, the temperature decreased, Izuku's face becoming carefully blank, looking at All Might with wide eyes, saying only one word. All Might laughed at the reaction, then started to explain, one for all can only be passed along from ingesting the DNA of the holder. Now eat. All Might commanded, shoving the hair into Izuku's hand, watching critically with his electric blue eyes as Izuku ate the strand of hair, gagging on it a few times, trying to force it down with nothing to drink. Oddly, Izuku realizes the hair tastes slightly sour as it goes down his gullet. Looking to All Might, the man looks back at Izuku, waiting for a bit until Izuku nods to himself when he finally manages to finish off the strand, and All Might's smile widens as balls out. It will take some time until one for all is digested by your body. In the meantime, let us go to you. Before he burst into a cloud of steam, leaving the emaciated blonde and a cough up of BLD from his mouth as he held his right side, and Izuku rummaged in his bag to find tissues for the blonde man, then handed the pack to the tall man, who in return thanked Izuku before both left to you. After a small checkup from Recovery Girl, Izuku left for home. A short train ride later, Izuku walked up to his home, with Dashuda inside. Pahazashi had gone to his other job at his radio station, and pushed open the door, revealing a mess of raven hair laid on the couch in an eye bleeding yellow with cats sat all around him. Smiling, Izuku left as not to wake up Shoyuda, going to his room to sleep himself on his bed, changing into his sleepwear, a pair of boxers and a worn All Might shirt, doing his nightly routine, then fell into bed, exhausted from the festival and the revelation of one for all to Izuku, passing out as soon as his head hit the pillow. Seemingly, Izuku opened his eyes to a pitch-black void, which rolled around like the waves of the sea with no color at all. Without warning, the void started to unravel itself, then remold into a kind of cityscape, Paris, as it would appear. Izuku found himself on top of the Eiffel Tower, sat on the edge, and next to him sat a familiar face, his mentor before he started his vigilante career, Nana Shimura, who turned to him sporting a wide smile. Good to see you again, sport, she said, shocking Izuku. It was like she was here. I'm here, sport. Up here, she told, pointing to his forehead. Izuku felt his mind stop. What? We're connect. Guess what? Bye. Still as energetic as ever. Connected. Izuku wonders. When Izuku had first saved Nana, she seemed worried about something, often waking from nightmares shouting a name out. Toshi. A nickname perhaps. Suddenly it clicked. Toshi, short for Toshinori, or All Might, who had given him one for all only hours earlier. Clapping, Nana began, you figured it out. Still haven't lost that analytic mind since we last saw each other, I see. Anyway, yes, we are now connected through one for all. You are the 9th. Once upon a time, I was the 7th. This is the first time since the origin that past holders could communicate with the current holder. You, Izuku Midoriya, have completed one for all. She paused for just a minute. She gazed over the city skyline, lost in memories until she snapped back and carried on. You see. The first theorized that one for all was incomplete when he gained it. He thought it needed more power to finish the stockpile, raw power, emotional power, quirk power. Everything is stored. Nana's eyes gleamed as she looked back to Izuku. However, the most important power that is stored is the defining trait that each holder had. You were last needed to complete that stockpile, hope. She finished, glowing a bright violet light. She explained further. The other holders all sensed your vast ocean of hope when you first met Toshi during the sludge villain incident. We all knew that you had to be 9th, so we nudged Toshi to you, guiding him to you. Actually, first and fourth formed a bond between you and Toshi. When Toshi lost more of his grip on One for All, it risked the torch being extinguished. The bond was the remnants of One for All flowing to you to start the spark, which is no longer needed. She finished with a bright smile. Izuku had no words. As soon as she had finished, the city below started to twist back into the black, inky void it was before. Nana turned from him to peer into the city, then back to him. You're waking up, sport. Good luck, ninth. Shooting up, Izuku wiped his brow, cold sweat beading on his forehead. His hands moved about in the dark, trying to grasp at anything to anchor him to the real world and to make sure he is back in reality. He grasped for his quirk and ignited his palm to start a fire to light up his room. Golden light bathed the room from his hand, bring him back to the real world as his eyes scanned his room for his clock. 5:09 a.m., Izuku read. No longer able to sleep, he stretched out his limbs and they cracked all over. Underneath his skin, Izuku could feel energy buzzing all around like static inside his skin. Groaning, he made his way out for a quick morning jog now that his mornings are freer for 2 days thanks to the sports festival, and it wasn't long until he finished his usual route. Izuku still felt that energy, that deep spring of power inside of him, waiting patiently for him to call upon it. Sensibly, Izuku decided that he would use the power under All Might's watchful eye. Better safe than sorry, Izuku thought. The time came when Izuku went to meet All Might at Dagobah Beach. As he approached, Izuku couldn't help but awe at the sight of the sun rising slowly over the horizon, reflecting off the water's surface perfectly. On the edge of the water, All Might, or Toshinori in his weakened form, stood patiently waiting for Izuku to arrive. Jogging down, Izuku came to a stop by All Might. Izuku still felt that brewing energy beneath his skin, threatening to break through and unleash hell on the world. More than likely hearing the sand shift behind him, All Might turned slowly to face Izuku, and All Might grinned at his newfound successor. All Might spoke up. Now that One for All has been introduced into your body, we can begin training. With that, All Might spun around and started to jog up the beach. Silence enveloped the duo as they jogged. All Might had a drop of blood leaking from his mouth, which was swiftly swiped away as they moved. They soon stopped at a desolate area of the beach, an area that Izuku had cleaned in the run-up to the entrance exams for you. But no one had the energy to go that far up the beach. All Might buffed up and boldly walked up to a rusty refrigerator that was hidden in the tree bank, picked it up, then placed it on the edge of the sea. All Might's hand gestured to Izuku to come to him, and Izuku obeyed, coming closer to the buff man. As Izuku got close, he asked All Might, "What now?" All Might smiled broadly as he responded, "Young Midoriya, I want you to call upon One for All and punch this." All Might waved to the refrigerator next to him, as he began to steam up and decrease in size. All Might moved away, giving Izuku the space to use One for All. Izuku closed his eyes and looked into himself to find One for All. Not long after he found it and called it to him, and it listened as his arm glowed as white veins crawled up it before they vanished into his skin. Izuku pulled back his fist and shouts, "SMZ." The reaction was immediate. The refrigerator was blown away, a large gust of wind emanated from Izuku, and his arm was an ugly purple and his bones felt like wet noodles. Izuku collapsed to his knees, grasping his arm in pain, and looked to All Might. Gentle hands made their way onto Izuku's back as he was picked up by All Might, who started to move Izuku to you. For Recovery Girl's assistance. They both made their way into you. Or blitzed into you. As All Might smashed through poor Recovery Girl's window with Izuku on his back. All Might shouted into the infirmary, "See, we need your help." In front of the duo, Recovery Girl pulled back a curtain with a look promising fury until her eyes fell upon Izuku. Her face shifted into one of concern, telling All Might, "The poor dear. Toshinori, get the boy onto the bed, please." With a click of her cane, Recovery Girl turned around to delve into her cupboards to find something. Izuku, meanwhile, felt himself be placed on a soft bed with his broken arm placed gently on a cushion, All Might in his skinny from supporting Izuku both physically and emotionally. Not long after, Recovery Girl came to the pair with a clipboard in hand. Recovery Girl looks up from the clipboard, speaking to Izuku, "Midoriya, The bones in your arm were broken in many places, a simple fix, as told Izuku as she kissed his arm. Recovery Girl's quirk kicked in, his arm glowing green fixing itself. Recovery Girl nodded then continued, everything else looks good, just leave this splint on for a day or two, and that's that you can rest here for a bit Midoriya. A sudden menacing aura came from Recovery Girl as she spoke lowly, Tashinori I'll be having words with you. Pointing her cane threateningly at the man, who shook in his boots. Pained cries came from All Might as he's dragged out of the infirmary by Recovery Girl, who pulled him out by his ear. Now Izuku sat in silence. He delved into his mind. For answers, prior to One for All, he knew he'd struggle to control the new quirk. It's like adding a whole new part to someone, but to break his bones is a pretty bad drawback, a liability in the field. Izuku recalled his quirk. He had to control the power output as not to destroy everything around him. Maybe I can apply the same idea here. Izuku thought. Slowly, he called out the core to his quirk and in his right palm a golden nebula lit up. Following up he summoned One for All to the left palm and it looked magnificent, a rainbow of fire, with a white core at its very center. Izuku's mind wandered to his conversation with Nana when she said that One for All stockpiles quirk power. Does that include the quirk itself? Izuku's eyes roamed over both palms, inching them closer together. As both cores got nearer, both began to merge, sparking wildly with a massive amount of power waving off. His powers awakening sending uncontrolled flames out as objects around the room began to float. As the quirks got closer to merging, small tremors came of the boy, shaking the very building and alerting all occupants. Time appeared to stop as One for All and Adstrom merged into one quirk. In Izuku's palm, a rainbow flame sat in the center of a void of darkness that surrounded it and golden stars scattered inside as they gleamed brightly. The quirk looked like a galaxy in his palm. Across the city, all of One felt it. After a century, his brother's quirk had been completed, and the power it held felt tantalizing. The heroes looked around manically. They all felt tremors inside of the building and fearing the worst began to search for a villain. Shoyuda was in the staff room doing some paper marking of the 2B heroic essays when he felt the tremors. Shoyuda looked pained as he saw his coffee fall of the table due to the Demed shaking. Righteous fury consumed Shoyuda, an evil aura taking over as he glared at anything. Ectoplasm was coming into the staff room when he saw Shoyuda then immediately left. No one commented on the broken window opposite the staff room or the vague outline of ectoplasm running to you. A's gates. Many of the heroes soon found themselves outside of the infirmary, Shoyuda standing at the door with capture gear in hand, glare hard set on the door as he kicked it down only to see Izuku holding a tiny galaxy in his hand. Due to the loud bang of the door hitting the floor caused Izuku to flare his quirk up and everything that wasn't nailed to the ground began to float in the air with no strain on Izuku at all. Shoyuda would never admit that he felt happy at seeing his problem child so happy and full of hope. Izuku was ecstatic. With both One for All and Adstrom merged as one, he now possesses the power to save people, inspire them, give them hope which he had lacked for so long. He can save those who need help, the desperate and broken, be the one that he once needed to others like him. Izuku heard the door get knocked down and his quirk flared. He saw his dad in the front of a gathering of staff, All Might next to him bearing a proud smile and Papa smiling wide at him. Unexpectedly, Shoyuda lurches forward, engulfing Izuku in a warm hug, surprising everyone in the room. Then Papa joins and Izuku feels. Shoyuda whispers into Izuku's ear, "I'm proud of you, son." With a small glint in the corner of Shuda's eye, Izuku sees and replies, "I love you." As tears stream gently down Izuku's face, hidden in Shuda's shoulder. The others see the family's moment and leaves them alone. Minutes passed as the small family shared laughs, tears and smiles as they stood alone in the infirmary before Izuku yawns and falls asleep in the arms of his parents, who bore proud dad smiles. Shoyuda and Hizashi with Izuku in their arms, left for home. Waking up Izuku when they got home, they shared a night of home-cooked katsudon. Some got burnt, Shoyuda somehow set water on fire and Hizashi danced to just dance on WhatIf. In the morning, all three people in the house woke up on the couch. Shoyuta and Hisashi sat at each side of their son who had slept the best sleep Izuku's had in years. Izuku stretched out. Sleeping on a couch upright did a number on his back, and it could be heard from the multiple cracks that came from his spine. He pulled out his phone and looked at the time displayed. 6:45, still early, Izuku thinks, getting up to cook for his dad and Papa. A simple meal consisting of bacon and toast, which is all Dad and Papa had in their cupboards. In Izuku's mind, he made a note to go shopping later for groceries. His right arm tensed, still sore from when he practically shattered the bones in his arm. He needs to get control over his quirk. Carefully, Izuku pulled his phone from his pocket, the main headline boldly presenting, Number 2 Hero, Endeavor with NO Quirk. Izuku thinks casually, they noticed. Clicking the article, Izuku began to read. The number 2 hero, Endeavor has been spotted lately without his quirk active, especially before Shudo Todoroki's match. Even in his hero costume, which begs the question, why? It is no secret Endeavor always had his quirk active, whether it be his costume design to his very facial hair, but now as we see here, a picture of Endeavor in his hero suit without his iconic flames, a furious snarl on his face. He lacks said fire which is often associated with his quirk, Hellfire. Some speculate that he is simply choosing not to use his flames, but here at Hero Theories believe that he lost his ability to use his quirk. A small video of the sports festival shows up, his match against Shinso actually, zooming in on Endeavor with a deep glare cast his hands. Here we see Endeavor looking at his hands, but trying to do something, his hands are tense and keep flexing. We believe he has lost the ability to use his quirk or lost his quirk entirely. The rest of the article went on a tangent on why he may have lost his flames, so really outlandish theories. Aliens stealing his quirk was the best one by far in Izuku's opinion. Distracted, he didn't notice the toast beginning to burn. As Izuku put his phone away, his eyes locked onto the smoke emanating from the toaster before it suddenly burst into flame. Izuku absorbed the flames and picked out the toast from the toaster, both items charred black. Behind him, both his dad and Papa woke up from the smell of burning and looked into the kitchen to see their son holding 6 pieces of charred toast next to the toast which was also burnt. Izuku turned to his parents, suggesting, cereal then, as he held up a carton of milk. A peaceful morning in Izuku's opinion. After the whole breakfast debacle, Izuku asks his dad, "Hey Dad." The raven-haired man looked over to Izuku, "Can I rent out any training halls at you?" His dad pulled out a random piece of paper out of thin air and slid it over the table to Izuku like a drag dealer with a case of money. The paper read out, "Training hall rent sheet." Giddily, Izuku filled in the form and handed it to his dad, who took it and told Izuku, "Go ahead. Use it." Then waved the boy off. Izuku ran to UA and used his student ID to get inside. Inside, he looked for his booked hall, Hall F. It didn't take long. Striding in, he went to the center and got into the lotus position. He had to think about how to use his quirk safely without breaking his bones. Funnily enough, he found his answer when he thought back to his middle school days, physics lessons to be exact. Surface area, the experiment of the balloon and drawing pins. One pin caused the balloon to pop, but spreading a large surface of pins caused the balloon to sit without popping. He had to increase the surface area of his quirk to alleviate the pressure that his quirk puts onto his body. And that's what he did. He called upon his quirk, letting it spread all over his body, up his arms, legs, chest, head, everywhere. As he did this, white veins glowed all over his body, then they vanished into his skin, as wind comes from his body, as well as green and golden lightning that flicker of his skin and into the area around him. Izuku stopped after about 5 minutes to take a break. Then he thought that he needed to rename his quirk to fit with the new powers now and spent 15 minutes deciding and came up with the name, Ethereal Flame. Over the next hour of training, Izuku realized some things. Number 1 is that his original quirk, Adstrom, was boosted significantly. His flames became more controllable and manipulable, with their firepower increasing drastically too, with the higher temperatures being more sustainable now. Number 2 is that his telekinesis had also been boosted, now being able to lift a small town with ease compared to his measly 3 tons before One for All. Number 3 is that One for All had increased in strength from when All Might had it, making him theoretically stronger than All Might. Number 4 is that One for All can enhance any aspect of Izuku, including his senses, brain, and what he now likes to call his mind-eye. Basically, he uses his telekinesis to set up a field around him. If the field is disrupted, it alerts to Izuku that something is in his vicinity. School restarts tomorrow and Izuku is ready to blow away his classmates as well as whoever he picks as a mentor for his internship, which he isn't supposed to know about until tomorrow, but oh well. With the hype of the sports festival over, school restarts and Izuku finds himself walking into you. His hair soaking wet from the downpour overhead. Behind him, Izuku hears the rapid footsteps coming towards him, so he spins around to see Ida coming towards him in a poncho while doing his whole robot hand-chopping motion, commanding Izuku, Midoriya. All you students must be at least 10 minutes early, come one. Ida launched off using his quirk to speed away from Izuku, who tried to catch up to the speedster, trying to find the right words. Last night, after returning home, he saw the news that 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐸𝐵 had been attacked by hero killer 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐸𝐵. He sustained injuries, but none that could threaten his hero career. Izuku could see that burning longing of revenge in Ida's eyes. He knew it well from his days of himself wanting to annihilate Bakugo back in middle school. Hesitantly, Izuku speaks to Ida. Ida, I know your brother was attacked. He pauses, looking to Ida with meaningful eyes, but he survived with minor injuries. Be glad that he did, as he is one of the few survivors that met 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐸𝐵 and lived. Ida looked to Izuku, his pain clear. Celebrate the fact, embrace it, but do not let that anger, that hatred overtake you. Come now, Izuku waves his hand. Let's go to lesson, we will talk about this after. Ida follows silently, conflict clear on his face, but resigns and sighs. Izuku thinks in his mind, when was I so smooth? What happened? Why am I so wise now? As he moves into the classroom, and his dad comes in just after. From the vents in the roof, freaking everyone out. Dad holds out his hand. Calm down. It was simple but got everyone's attention. Now that I have your attention, let us move on to homeroom. Dad's eyes scan the room as he continued. With the end of the sports festival, I can now begin first-year internships. It is mandatory for you all to do this. Most of you received offers from agencies from your performance at the festival. Izuku's dad, or Aizawa in school, pulled a remote from his pocket and pressed a button which brought a projector to life as it projected the internship offers to 1A Izuku Midoriya, 5149 Shudo Todoroki, 4561 Hitoshi Shinso, 4063 Katsuki Baku, 3710. The rest of the class had only under 200 offers each. As Izuku's dad spoke up, yeah, the top 4 really took the spotlight, by the way. It's usually more spread. His dad flopped onto the table. Izuku looked to Bakugo, who was fuming over the fact that his last opponent got more offers than him when said boy wasn't even in the heroics course. Curiosity echoed in the class, and that's when everyone noticed a certain grapist was missing. Izuku realized what was going on and decided not to spoil his dad's thunder. Said man jolted up, scaring everyone, then terrifying them with that demonic smirk he had as he lowly told the class, meet your newest classmate, twitching his head to the door, where a new purple-haired teen came in, his eye bags as bad as his dad's. This is Hitoshi Shinso. After finishing, Dad flopped onto the floor, tiredly telling the class, now you'll all be picking code names, enjoy. These usually last for life. Snores came from the bag as midnight burst through the door. Izuku knew the real reason why his dad didn't do the code names with us. He's not really that good with coming up with code names. Eraserhead was his worst mistake, Dad once told Izuku. Midnight sauntered up to the podium, subtly kicking the sleeping bag next to her, and began talking. Be careful when choosing a code name. These usually last for the rest of your career. Liking her lips seductively, maybe, Izuku can't tell really, he finds men are a lot more to his liking, especially the Ice King in his class. She hands out white boards to the class, then tells them, write your code names on here, then come up and announce them. Happily telling the class their instructions. It began with Aoyama, who came up with, can't stop twinkling, or originally, I cannot stop twinkling, an entire sentence. Then Ishido with Alien Queen, from Ridley Scott's Alien franchise, but changed it when Midnight denied Alien Queen, so Ishido changed it to Pinky. Tsu chose Froppy as her codename bring normalcy back. Then came Ojiro with Tailman. After him Sato with Sugarman Kaminari combined a lightning bolt and charge into Charge Bolt. Kirishima paid homage to Crimson Riot with his code name of Red Riot. Koda's codename was simple. Anima. Tokoyami used the god of the night. Tsukuyami. Shoji's codename was simply Tentacle. Siro's codename is a play on words. Cellophane. Gyre's codename relates to her quirk. Earphone Jack. Hagakure goes with something simple. Invisible Girl. Uraraka codename was cute and combination of her quirk and name. Uravity. Yayarozu goes with Creatia, going well with her quirk. Bakuga's original name was King Explosion Murder, and was instantly vetoed. Then another Lord Explosion Murder, and again was vetoed. Finally, he went with Ground Zero. Todoroki's chose Frozen Flame. Ida struggled with his codename, but went with Velocity. Last but not least, Izuku came up his codename written on his board. He spun it around to show the class. Blazing Nova. What he didn't know is that there was an underground hero in Germany with the same name. His dad knew that and decided to change it later. Izuku wanted to pay homage to his vigilante past, Crimson Blaze, but also wanting to inspire people. So Nova. Scientifically, a nova is when a star glows at its brightest, and Izuku wants to be the brightest for those who have been cast into the shadows and be their beacon, hence Blazing Nova. Now that the code names are out of the way, the class now had to decide on where to intern at. Izuku noticed he had an internship offer from Endeavor, as did Todoroki. Perhaps he should join Todoroki, who also picked Endeavor, probably to train with his fireside. In the back of Izuku's mind, he thinks it can be a good time to assess whether Endeavor had learned his lesson, or will he remain without his quirk to use properly. After school finished, Izuku all but dragged Ida to training hall F by Ida's collar. In the hall, Izuku had set up 2 tasks for Ida to complete. One was a 10 kilometers jog around you, and the other was to punch the punch bag in the corner at least 100 times. Both boys entered, and Izuku told Ida, "Now, what you're going to do first is run around you." Ida reached 10 kilometers. Ida was gaping at Izuku like he was a madman, but sighed anyway and started to jog. Whilst the speedster was jogging, Izuku decorated the punching bag with a red mask, some loose-fitting clothes and 2 blunted swords on its back to vaguely resemble the hero killer. About 12 minutes later, Ida came back into the hall, drenched in sweat, his glasses barely hanging onto his nose. Izuku called him over with a wave. Ida's face contorted into anger at the punching bag and asked Izuku, "What is this supposed to be, Midoriya?" His tone hard, but Izuku didn't care as he explained what Ida was going to do next. "Ida, now you're going to punch Staney here," pointing to the bag, "with all you might." A dark look crossed Ida's face, his fist balled up and he struck the bag true, and it made grunting noise with a cracking bone effect. Ida did it again and again and again, venting all his anger and hatred into the bag until he broke down. Ida sobbed for some time until he finished and turned to Izuku, "Thank you for that, Midoriya, I needed that." Izuku could tell that Ida had let go of his foolish idea of hunting the hero killer. His anger had clouded his judgment, and letting him release that anger let him regain focus and realize that his plan would get him killed. Izuku called to Ida, "Ida, feel free to call me Izuku." Smiling at the brunette, who smiled back and responded to Izuku, "Okay then Izuku, call me Tenya." However, Tenya was too late to withdraw his internship with Manuel, so he stuck to it. Izuku had chosen Endeavor along with Todoroki, but his reason to go was to examine if Endeavor deserved his core returning to him. The day after choosing code names, Izuku and his class found themselves in the train station. Izuku stood by Todoroki as they spoke about the latest conspiracy theories circling in 1A, the greatest one being that the newcomer, Shinso, was Shura's secret love child. That got a laugh from Izuku. Izuku heard his dad behind him say, "Right? You all have your costumes. Don't wear them without the consent of your mentors. Good luck." Then turned tailed and left the group to board the trains to leave to their internships. Izuku shook Tenya's hand, then left with Todoroki. He bumped into Todoroki and started to apologize. "Ah, Todoroki." Izuku was cut off by Todoroki, who told Izuku, "Midoriya, please call me Shudo." His steel gray and sapphire blue eyes gleamed brightly, And Izuku couldn't help but blush a little at this boy who was looking at Izuku with those magnificent eyes. Catching himself, Izuku responded with, "Okay, Shudo, but please feel free to call me Izuku." Their train left and both boys sat talking to one another, preparing for their internship with the number 2 hero.